Good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming. Welcome to the Administration and Operation Committee meeting for October 21st. Attendance has been taken. Everybody is here. Before the approval of the agenda, does anybody have anything to add? Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One item under other business, it's an appreciation note.
Anybody else with anything to add? Seeing none, can I get a mover with that additional? Councillor Howes, Councillor Oakley, questions? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Declaration of pecuniary interest, any at this point? Seeing none, if any come up through the meeting, please let me know ASAP. Delegations and petitions and presentations, we do have a number of them today, so I'll remind you when you come up, but just a reminder to everybody, when you come up for your delegation, you'll have 10 minutes to speak, and then if there's any questions from committee, we'll go from there. So the first delegation, Whitney Dean. Whitney, come on up. From Millards for the County of Brant 2024 financial statements. So whenever you're ready, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So today I'm just going to be presenting the audited financial statements. So I'll start by just looking at the independent auditor's report. So the auditor report states that we have audited the consolidated financial statements, which include the consolidated statement of financial position, the statement of operations and accumulated surplus, changes in net financial assets, remeasurements, gains and losses as of December 31st, 2024. The financial statements include notes to the statements, which are an integral part of the financial statements as a whole. In our opinion, the accompanying consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material aspects the operations of the County of Brant as of December 31st in accordance with Canadian Sector Public Accounting Standards. So the auditor's report goes on to outline the responsibilities of management. Management is responsible for the presentation and fair presentation of the consolidated financial statements, and those charged with governance are responsible for overseeing the financial reporting process. It goes on to outline the auditor's responsibilities throughout the audit. So we perform the audit with professional skepticism throughout the audit. We identify and assess the risks of material misstatement, obtain an understanding of internal controls in order to design audit procedures. We evaluate the appropriateness of the accounting policies used, as well as the reasonableness of the accounting estimates within the financial statements. We conclude on the appropriateness of management's use of the going concern and evaluate the overall presentation, structure, and content of the consolidated financial statements. We also plan and perform the group audit to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence regarding the financial information of the entities and the business transactions within as a basis for forming the opinion in the auditor's report. So now we'll just move on to give a brief overview of the financial statements. So just as noted in the auditor's report that we just went over, the financial statements are prepared with PSAB. The consolidated financial statements include the consolidation of the library, along with the John Noble Home as a proportionate consolidation of 28%, which was consistent with the previous year. It also includes Brant Municipal Enterprises, which is a government business enterprise, and is accounted for on a modified equity basis. That means that BME's accounting principles are not adjusted to conform with those of the counties, and interorganizational transactions are not eliminated. BME issues separate audited financial statements prepared in accordance with international financial reporting standards that are audited by Millards. On the consolidated financial position, we'll note that financial assets include cash, investments, taxes, and other receivables, and the county's investment in BME, along with a loan receivable from BME as well this year. In the financial liabilities, we'll note that it includes items such as accounts payable and accrued liabilities, along with long-term liabilities and other liabilities that include estimates, such as post-employment and retired benefits, asset retirement obligations, and I'll also note that this year the county adopted PS 3400 which was revenue, and with that adoption was done on a prospective basis. The standard looks to recognize revenue from transactions that involve provisions of services over time as that is earned. And so you'll note that deferred revenues increase this year related to that adoption. That can be further outlined in Note 1B in your accounting policies. The county has net financial liabilities at the end of 2024 of approximately $27 million, down from $43 million in 2023. Non-financial assets will include your tangible capital assets, which represent the county's expenditures on TCA, which includes items such as land, building, machinery and equipment, infrastructure, and assets under construction. Those are less accumulated amortization and taken to date, as well as prepaid expenses and inventory. On the next page includes the consolidated statement of operations. So there you'll have your revenues for the year, which include taxation, user fee, service charges, federal and provincial government grants, as well as other sources of revenue. Total revenues for 2024 included $157 million. Expenses are presented by functional area on the statement of operations. However, on page 26 of the financial statements, those are broken down to segmented information so that you can see the composition of expenditures by functional area. Total expenditures for 2024 were approximately $111 million. So I would like to draw attention to the budget column as well on the statement of operations. So the budget is presented in accordance with PSAB. So as a result, that has been converted from the original budget that was approved to a PSAB compliant budget, and the details of the conversion can be found within the notes of the financial statements as well. So just a reminder, the accompanying notes are an important component of the financial statements and provide disclosures and further information regarding the information within the financial statement of financial position and the statement of operations. And additional details can be found there. At this time, we'd also like to thank county staff for their assistance throughout the audit and their cooperation as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Whitney. Any questions from committee? Okay, seeing none, can I get a motion, I guess, just to receive his information for now? Councillor Bell, Mayor Bailey, questions? Oh, sorry, Heather.
Sorry, Councillor Pierce. The resolution actually needs to be in the form that's on the agenda. It's not just to receive.
The report to members of County of Brant, consolidated financial statement for the year ending be received as information, and sorry?
Yeah, it just has to be read in that specific.
Yeah, so the motion is that the report to the members of the County of Brant Council, the consolidated financial statements for the year ending December 31st, 2024 be received as information. You're good with that? Mayor Bailey, you're good with that? Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, next up for delegation is Tim Beckett in regards to the County of Brant Fire Station location study. Cindy?
Yeah. Good morning to members of committee. I just wanted to give a brief introduction this morning to Tim Beckett. Tim's been working with the County of Brant Fire Department on the fire location study for the last few months. This location study was a recommendation that came out of the Fire Master Plan, and he's going to give some highlights of the outcomes of that study for committee this morning.
Perfect. Do you have a presentation?
Yes, we do.
Gary, can we get that presentation up? Thank you.
So good morning, committee. My name is Tim Beckett, Senior Technical Advisor with Bear Integrated Solutions. We are located in Kitchener, Ontario. We've had the great opportunity to work the last couple of months with Chief Watson and the Brant County Fire Team to work on and review the aspects of a fire station location study. One of the, when we look at the overview and the objective of the project, it was to, gather as much of the information as we possibly could to best understand the situation. With the addition of a new station in North Paris, we were looking at a relocation opportunity for the current Paris station, station number 1, identify the optimum site location for that, and assess any potential opportunities for consolidation with Station 2 in the airport area. This was all about, looking at what is feasible, what is the best place to put that. We gathered a lot of data. We looked at 5 years worth of response data, the historical part of things. We then applied some GIS processes and looked at your growth projections over the coming years. We utilized industry best practices so that we could fit the community's needs and circumstances, not just today, but into the future for that longer-term vision and develop our recommendations. We explored 3 options. We looked at option A, which was identified as Rest Acre Roads and Powerline Road. I refer to that one as north of Highway 403. We looked at locations south of the 403 in around Rest Acres Road and Bethel Road area. And then the status quo, leaving that existing station, Station 1 where it is, and what would that look like from a response aspect. This is just an overview map of your current situation with the North Paris station in play. What we identify here is that you have a lot of overlap. When the North Paris station comes into play, you have a lot of overlap between your current Station 1 and the new station. But you also have a big gap in between, currently in between Station 2 and the current Station 1. And this is based on a 5-minute travel time from the time that a truck would leave the station to the time at which they would arrive at the front door of the incident. When we start to adjust, what does that look like then when we overlap the new station in, eliminate current Station 1, eliminate the airport, and consolidate those 2 into an area south of 403. You can see an evening of the response aspects into the Paris area, further providing a little bit more extensive coverage into that gap we previously identified between airport and Paris, and which still reaches into the Paris area, and then also provides some additional coverage into the Burford area. So we got some overlap that happens there, so some opportunity for the future. As part of our review, we looked at the pros and cons of such. And when we look at our preferred option, option B, south of the 403, we identify that it has easy access to the 403 and the entirety of Rest Acres Road, so it's an easy up and down. Also onto the 403 where a lot of calls are occurring. You have municipal-owned land in that area. Plus the OPP station as well is down there, so there's opportunity to look at many different options. It'll provide coverage into the airport settlement area, greater coverage provided into some of your future growth areas as well in South Paris. And we looked at also the aspect of an advantage is that both the current Station 1 and Station 2 could be repurposed or sold off to help assist in offsetting costs of a new station. Some of the disadvantages that were identified, you have some congestion that happens along that 403 Rest Acre Road corridor. So assembly time from volunteer firefighters living north of the 403 might be extended. There's a slightly longer response into the downtown core, but with the North Paris station there, that could equalize that response into that downtown core where your higher incidence areas are. One of the things that we also took into account here was that long-term vision. Not just what you need today, but you would be putting a substantial amount of capital costs and investment into such a relocation. So what does it look like 30, 40, 50 years out for the municipality? And your growth, identifying a transition from your volunteer component to a composite aspect with inclusion of full-time firefighters. And, you know, the longer-term vision says that this is an optimal location, not only for today, but it really positions you well for the future growth and opportunities as you move out. So that's a high-level overview of our findings. Mr. Chair, through you to the committee, I'm prepared to take any questions at this time.
Okay, thank you for that, Tim. Questions from the committee? Can we get it on the table? Can I get a mover? Counselor Howes, Counselor Kyle, Counselor Miller, you have a question?
Thank you. To the presenter, to Tim. Tim, did where Brantford's stations are located, did that factor into this particular option?
We had a slight look at the Brantford stations. I know that having done some work with that municipality in the past, you know, they had the one station down to the south area near the airport that you know, could assist if required, but we didn't take a deep dive. It wasn't really a fulsome mandate as part of the report, but we had a glance at that, yes.
Any other questions? Okay, and to that mover and seconder, that was to receive his information, correct? Okay. No other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you, Tim. Okay, 4.3, Samantha? It's going to speak to a bylaw proposal for light intrusion. Okay. So if we could just get you to state your name for the clerk, and again, you have 10 minutes.
No problem. My name is Samantha Moda. Do I have to give my address this time, or? Okay, it's at 10 Edgar Place, Paris, Ontario, in the Mile Hill subdivision. Today, I'm proposing a light intrusion nuisance outdoor illumination bylaw, which does not exist in Paris today. What we do have is our current bylaw. I wanted to put when it was actually, I don't know when it was actually passed, but the first and second reading happened on October 15th, 2002. It says, I'm having a hard time seeing because of my eyes, so one second, everyone. I'll just get on my phone. So all properties must provide and maintain an effective barrier for the lighting, and it should not illuminate another dwelling. I have made bylaw complaints about what I will be talking about later in my presentation. The interpretation from bylaw manager and his staff is that it means an external floodlight, which does not always represent what housing is in Paris today with the new developments. I just wanted to talk a little bit about light pollution and how it affects us. It affects us people, it affects the wildlife. It also wastes energy and costs of money. I wanted to put this, this photo up here because it represents what's good and what is bad in typical lighting. A lot of houses have backdoor lights. People like to have it on, they feel safe. But sometimes it represents a very bad or a bad lighting onto other adjacent properties. The best would be putting the light down into the ground. So I really wanted to kind of put that out there of what good and bad lighting looks like, because that's not really representative in our bylaws today. I also wanted to provide a couple bylaws from other communities, and one just adjacent to us is Brantford. In the past few years, major cities and even small communities have been putting the intrusive lighting bylaws or nuisance lighting bylaws, and that has not been reflective here in the County of Brant. Some of the things is they've added nuisance lighting You know, we talk about shielded, you know, those back lights should be shielded or directing down or somewhat shielded at the top. We don't have that obviously in our bylaw, and it's interpreted differently by our bylaw enforcement team. I'm not going to go word for word about each one, but I have about 4. This one is from Brantford. It was passed on June 27, 2023. We do have Mississauga, a much larger community than ours, but again, I find it interesting, they've only passed this on November 29th, 2023 as well. Some stuff that you'll see in here, they reduce unwanted light trespass and spill, it's noted in their bylaws, prohibit and regulate light nuisances, control light pollution by minimizing non-targeted lights, and then this one is reduce glare from external luminaries and internal. So that's a very big thing too, because that is affecting me and my family right now. It's not just external, it's internal luminaries as well. Going on, a Lakeshore, much smaller communities, they have passed one just last year on January 30th, 2024. They've put a nuisance lighting and external lights guidance, and as you can see again, the shielded is there again, shielded lights, which I think is very important. And then Oakville had the most comprehensive one. They have multiple bylaws, and they had a lot of resources on their website as well, where I got a lot of these pictures to share with everyone today. Again, they have they talk about outdoor living spaces. They talk about, residential outdoor lighting should be placed and directed and maintained, meaning not let that glare direct onto an adjacent property. So that's a little bit about some of the bylaws near and close to us, and we are a growing community. I wanted to say, how can somebody reduce light pollution? Only keep the lights on when necessary. Ensure light fixtures have a purpose. Only direct lights where it is intended to go. Choose light fixtures that are shielded and reduce the wattage on the outdoor lights. There's a couple of things. I happen to have an unshielded fixture behind my home that is on 24/7. They leave it on all night long, illuminating my house. I wanted to see this picture of a shielded fixture so you guys can see how that should be, I think, a part of our bylaws, especially with the homes being so close. They're not big lots anymore, they're smaller. And that's what I'm facing today in my particular home. And it just shows you the glare of the bottom pictures about how those lights would look, like an unshielded fixture, how it illuminates across, illuminates up, illuminates down. It's illumination everywhere, versus if you had one above your porch and going downwards. I want to share with everybody what I'm experiencing today and why this is important. This has been bothering me for about 4 years. We moved in almost 5 years ago. I do have a home behind me that do not like to shut their window coverings. They leave their lights on majority of the time, especially when other family members come. They've increased their lighting. And in this case, this week, that back porch has been on all night. And the 2 to the right, that's inside my home with no lights on. Those are my window coverings are open. I have California shutters, but that's how much it illuminates my house. Unfortunately, we have to have our blind coverings closed at all times, all night long. We cannot enjoy our backyard that we've put a lot of money into. We can't enjoy our fire pit. That's gas. We can't enjoy our hot tub. We can't enjoy it if it's at nighttime because all we see is lots of light coming in on us. And as you can see in some of the photos, I have added trees. So in the summer, it will somewhat tree. They're still growing, but it's still an impact to me and why I feel passionate about this. I also want to point out our growth. This is important to me. In the last 20 years, and this is from your census data, we have grown 19.8%, and that's up to 2021. And we know in the last few years, we've really grown in Paris. But we haven't changed our bylaws to reflect our community, our different types of housing that's being built. They're building them taller and skinnier to make profit. And that's fine, that's their right to do that. But that would increase a lot of light above people's homes. I live in a bungalow, and I back onto a very large 2-story home. And unfortunately, their main floor is about 4 feet above my 6-foot fence. So at all times, I have no privacy, and the light will shine directly into my home. And they can watch me all day too. What I want to propose to everyone today is us to change our property standards bylaw. I want to have reduced glare from external luminaries and internal. I want to reduce unwanted light, trespass, and spill onto other dwellings. I want to prohibit and regulate light nuisances. Exterior lighting used to illuminate yards and parking areas shall be arranged or shielded to deflect away from abutting properties. A barrier or deflector shall be provided to prevent the lighting from shining directly into adjacent dwelling units. And both internal and external lighting shall not interfere with the comfortable enjoyment of life or property. I happen to be in Mile Hill. I've spoke a couple times last year. We're going to have some big townhouses coming in, and as we continue to build medium and large homes, we need to really think about how light affects the residents that are there. And I think this is, some of you might say, well, it's not affecting me right now, but like in St. George, that's going to be a problem in 5 or so years. And as we grow our communities, this is going to be a problem because the property lots are much shorter than they have been in the past. And I think this will become a big problem going forward. And I want to thank you for letting me speak, and I'll open up to some questions, if any.
Okay, thank you for that. Can I get a mover, I guess, to potentially receive and forward to bylaw? Councillor Bell, you're good with that?
Mr. Chair, I would actually recommend we also forward it to our planning group, because a lot of this is about what happens as we develop new subdivisions, especially as Samantha points out, those subdivisions are getting denser and denser in terms of population.
Right, okay, so forward it to bylaw and to planning. Can I get a seconder for that? Mayor Bailey, did you want to speak to it?
If I could, Samantha and I have had a few email exchanges on this before, and I want to thank her for coming along. I thought it was a very good presentation. I thought you hit the right points. I thought you've illustrated where other people do things differently from us. You've illustrated there's a time element in here, which is about how things have developed over the last 20 years. I'm very supportive of your suggestions in regard of external lighting. I'm struggling a bit with internal lighting. And your particular case, a lot of the problems actually result from your neighbours keeping their blinds open and their lights on. And I think that's why it's worthwhile passing it to planning and bylaw to have them investigate. Are there any practical ways of dealing with that internal lighting? I think you've given us the answers for the external lighting, and I hope we can follow them through. But thank you for coming, Samantha.
Can I go back to go on to that point for you guys about the internal? If you look at the first slide, I don't think I'm sharing anymore. Is there possible to share? Thanks. The very first picture, top left, there's a little square up there. It's not illuminated, but in the second middle picture from the top, do you see that glare? So she has the girl who lives there full-time now. Before it was a vacation home. She has not closed those blinds in probably 8 months. That's a bathroom, by the way. And when that light goes on, it's the light fixtures on the wall, because she's so higher than me, even on the main floor would be higher, it just illuminates in. So I'm at the point where I have to cover my garden door, the glass above it, because it illuminates my whole great room. So when you walk in my house, it's one big room. So there's no separate rooms, so it illuminates us all night long. I'm gonna have to force to put more money out to block that from her. Those squares are there specifically because those are the glare points. There's also in the dining room, there's new chandeliers, kind of similar to these ones, but they're very bright. They like very bright lights. Again, I think when it goes to planning, if they can really consider the wattage, because these new LEDs are very bright, and especially that back door, and you can't really see it in the first picture at the top, but you can see it in the middle top picture how it glares, and they're very bright. She just, and that's fine, I can't force anybody to shut a blind, but she won't. Yeah.
Councillor Bell?
One final comment, and I'm sure you've done this already, Samantha. I presume you've gone and spoken to your neighbours and asked them politely to close the blinds.
Yeah, I made a bylaw complaint. I had an unfortunate experience with one of the bylaw officers. I've talked to Greg. It's their interpretation is a floodlight. If it's not a floodlight, it's not a case.
But your neighbour is not willing to work with the owners?
I have. It was a vacation home, so to come about 2 to 3 weeks a year. There's a language barrier a little bit, not with the wife. And then they did it for a couple days, couple weeks, and then not since. And their daughter lives there now, and it's 24/7.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Councillor House?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. This is more of a comment than it is a question directed to the delegation. But following up on what Councillor Bell is saying, I agree that it's, when it comes to exterior lighting, I can see the benefits of having more specific regulations. We've had situations in Ward 2 where there's been industrial lighting that has encroached onto residential areas. And fortunately, the business owners were cooperative and added shields and things, and it really did make a difference. So I think these steps are all going in the right direction, but I am struggling, as Councillor Bell mentioned, I'm struggling with how we would regulate and then enforce what people would do inside their own homes in terms of whether their lights are bright, whether the lights are on, whether they have shades, whether they use the shades when it's inside their own homes. I think this is venturing into some tricky territory. So I support the motion and we'll look forward to seeing feedback from both planning and bylaw enforcement.
Thank you for that. Councillor Oakley.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, just some clarification on the motion on the floor. In referring this to staff, are we requesting that staff make these changes to their bylaw, or it's going to be a sort of a neutral assessment of this topic?
Councillor Bell?
Yeah, I think it's the normal process we follow where we ask staff to look at this as input, but there are other inputs and some that Samantha's already referenced. And let's have a staff recommendation from this.
Yeah, through the chair, I just wouldn't be comfortable right now if the interpretation that staff would be getting is that we're looking to implement this. So similar to my colleagues, I don't believe I personally don't believe we should be looking at some way to regulate folks' lights inside their own home. And even on the larger topic of folks' external lights, you know, I think this is, from the short-lived committee for the unintended consequences of urban intensification, I think a lot of this is, it's just the consequence of living in an urban area and an increasingly urban area, and that's not gonna work for everybody. Some folks it will work for. But ultimately, I don't think we should be adding more regulation to impact how people choose to use their own property where it's not necessary. And I don't know if this is, I don't believe this is necessary here to do. I will still support the motion just to get a look at it, but I certainly don't support the regulation of internal lights, and I struggle with even doing it with the external lights more so than what we already have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from committee? Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor to forward this to bylaw and planning for review. Has been seconded. No other questions. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you, Samantha. Thank you. Okay, next up, Andrea Bowden regarding Cleaver Road Bridge. So if you could state your name and address, and then again, reminder, 10 minutes.
Good morning, members of council and residents. My name is Andrea Bowden of Highland Estates in Mount Vernon, an area rich in heritage, and I'm here to advocate for the reopening of the Cleaver Road Bridge to vehicles on behalf of our community's safety. In July 2023, Brant County told us the temporary emergency closure of the Cleaver Road Bridge was intended to protect us. Instead, the proposed reroutes, Mill Street and Robinson Road, created new and serious safety concerns, endangering both drivers and pedestrians. And just so everyone knows, MTO is not responsible for reroutes on secondary highways or roads. The OPP, in conjunction with the municipality, are. So most critically, the closure threatens public safety by increasing emergency response times to more than half of our community. And as we've just heard from the fire station consultant, there is a gap in service times between the airport and Paris stations. So we urge you to prioritize a low-cost solution to rehabilitate and reopen the Cleaver Road Bridge to vehicles. and instead reject the staff recommendation to rehabilitate and apply geometry to Robinson Road. A decision to keep the bridge closed to vehicles is a decision to accept these risks and concerns. So as we've seen by Salt Springs Church Road, it's shown us that a closed road divides neighbors, disrupts travel routines, and creates safety risks on other roads. But I do thank the 8 council members that acknowledged their situation and voted to address it. We ask for the same support. The Cleaver Road Bridge has connected our rural heritage-rich area for over 100 years, and its closure since July 2023 has cut off our vital direct access to essential services and the existing road network. For 2.5 years now, the majority of residents have consistently called for the Cleaver Road Bridge to reopen to vehicles and not be detoured to Robinson Road. This is fact and was proven through our many petitions, letters, emails, and public forums, and the majority vote in the survey results. So this is my actually 4th time speaking on this subject. Brant County's own strategic plan priority commits to reliable infrastructure and support current and future needs of the community. Also, Ontario Regulation 10497 sets the standards for bridges. In Ontario, according to the Ontario Municipal Act 2001, it also requires the maintenance of bridges and highways. Here's a statement from a past employee of Brant County. I don't want to see bridges closed simply because we let them get to a state of disrepair. And that's exactly what happened. So this is a report from 2006, 19 years ago. This was gained by the Freedom of Information Act, and according to these reports by Phillips Engineering Structural Bridge, this is the Phillips Engineering Structural Bridge Inspection Report. The priority for repair and rehabilitation was 1 to 5 years. The approaches for the Cleaver Road Bridge did not, and as of the 2023 report, when it was closed, still did not comply to code. Again, this was 2006. Here's the same report mentioning the Cleaver Road Bridge and also the AADT. So for Cleaver, it is 400. For Mill Street, it was 300. Why this matters? This shows how many vehicles use the bridge daily. When you have a high AADT, it means that the route is essential for daily travel, connecting residents to services, work, and emergency help. So for the Cleaver Road Bridge, the strong annual average daily traffic show it is a vital link to vehicles, and closing it disrupts access and impacts the whole community. So now we fast track to 2022, and we have a proposal and a new transportation master plan update. So now we're going to close bridges at end of life instead of repair. And then there was a list provided in the transportation master plan of 15 bridges. Brant County published a survey result report in 2025 as part of the consultation process regarding your community engagement framework. You allowed us to have public input at a public forum at the Airport Community Center. Well, the results that were published were extremely misleading. As you can see by the pie chart, this is all information provided by Brant County, not me. 118 residents responded. How do you travel over the Cleaver Road Bridge? How did you travel? What was your main point of transportation? Vehicles was 100, pedestrians 13, other 5. I don't know what that meant, whether it was horses or I don't know. And bicycles was 0. So how did the conclusion come that we are a community divided? No, we know what we want. We would like the Cleaver Road Bridge reopened to vehicle traffic. Again, from Brant County's own published survey results, the results lack transparency. So everything was published by average rank instead of just simply providing us what the numbers were. So if 118 people replied to this survey, I'd like to know what the actual results were. So through the chair, I'm going to ask Mr. Mayor, actually elections are coming up in 2026. If you had 5 people in these elections and the vote was 2.08 average rank for yourself, did you win? And if the second candidate had 2.61 average rank, were they in second place? How far behind were they from yourself? So our community's majority and preferred option for this project is maintaining vehicle passage, and the results lack transparency, and I know what the formula is to figure out average rank, but we just don't know how they were ranked and what weight was given to each ranking. So there's a summary of that. I'm not going to go through the math and how things are calculated regarding average rank. Again, from Brant County's own published survey results, non-transparent, again, average rank results for the question about, does the community actually want a new bridge, rehab the Cleaver Bridge? Do we want a pedestrian bridge? And again, the average ranking was, we can't tell what it was, and nobody wants to let us know. So I did like a reverse engineering of the formula, and it shows that first and second, the number of people that wanted this was actually a vehicle bridge, either new or rehabilitated, and then it goes down from there. So recently there were some terrible childcare centers in Richmond Hill that were affected, and Brant County put out this statement to actually address the safety of parents, children dropping off at schools and daycare. We happen to have one of these on Mill Street. If anyone has ever gone on Mill Street at pickup times or drop-off times, you'll know that it's actually extremely difficult. I did this the other day at approximately 3 o'clock, and the bus stops, the children get out, and now traffic actually backs up onto Colborne West. I think that's quite dangerous. Also, the bus ends up stopping there, puts his right blinker on, and now traffic behind is allowed to actually proceed. However, you can't proceed because there's a hill, and now it is a blind hill, and you can't tell when cars are coming. So the third picture of the bus, so thankfully I didn't go at that moment because the car actually ended up being there. This road is a very narrow road. It doesn't actually meet the road width standard of the Ontario regulations. And then the final picture is the Burford Co-op, and you can see that the parking lines of the cars are approximately 14 inches from the side of the road. So vehicles are actually traveling. So if somebody opens their road to let their child out, they have 14 inches to open the door and possibly get hit by a car. Mill Street continued. This photo of the actual weight restrictions on Mill Street was taken on October 10th. And from my understanding, I thought that weight restriction was taken off regardless. We have numerous vehicles coming down that street and hill that are more than 18 tons, and nobody is regulating this. There's not really a way to regulate, I guess. Then the final picture on that screen is the snow that accumulates on the actual sidewalks of the new Mill Street Bridge. This is the walking viewing platform. So there is a regulation that says if it accumulates more than 8 centimeters, that action must be taken. So 8 centimeters is approximately the width of a cell phone. So as you can see, that is way higher. I contacted the county, and this was the results after 1 week. So it is unusable. So the detour and rerouting traffic safety concerns. So on October 7th, we've had actually, this is about the 5th incident that we've had. in regards to closing roads and detours. This one, I believe, was an emergency hydro repair on Colburn Street West. So this led to heavy vehicles over 18 tons. We witnessed, I was walking that day.
Yes, sorry to interrupt you, but you have a minute left, okay?
Okay. Is there anyone that's willing to allow me more time to pass a motion? Thank you. Okay, it has come to my attention last night that allegedly Brant County purchased land with the intent to widen Mill Street even prior to the Mill Street Bridge being built. And now staff are recommending this redesign of Mill Street as a new idea. It's hard not to feel that this was all predetermined. We have spent 2.5 years engaging you, petitioning, lobbying, only to arrive at a staff recommendation that it appears to have been predetermined, and that's unethical. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate the enthusiasm, but please don't clap or cheer or just anything like that, okay? Thank you. Okay, any questions from committee? Andrew, you want to come back up? Councillor Miller?
Yeah, just one question, Mr. Chair, to Andrea. Andrea, you mentioned 5 times that traffic's been closed on Highway 24, but that,
Not on 24, our surrounding areas. So between Colburn West and Highway 24,
okay,
there were 5 incidents or 5 reroutes in 2025 alone.
I'm just wondering if it wasn't more. That's 5 you're
Well,
aware of.
it could be. I asked for an incident report from the OPP. They denied me. I went to the Solicitor General and asked for all of the reports as part of the Freedom of Information Act, and I'm still waiting 60 days later.
Yeah, because
So they have my $10, but
I've seen it closed twice, and that's just, you know, happenstance. And I'm thinking, if I've seen it closed twice, I suspect it's closed quite a few times. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bell, then Councillor Chambers.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's actually a question for staff related to a comment that Andrea made. You mentioned, Andrea, that Cleaver Road Bridge had a high AADT. So I wonder if staff could tell me what represents a high AADT.
So,
Dave?
through the chair to Councillor Bell, the average annual daily traffic for those roads, they were taken in 2024, so this is after the bridge is closed. So the area of Mill Street, it's 750 vehicles per day. Keep in mind that takes both sides of the road. And a way to visualize that, just to get an understanding of the volume of traffic, assuming traffic starts at 7 a.m. and ends at 7 p.m., it's one vehicle per minute.
Well, could you help me and tell me what would represent a high AADT?
Typically around 2,000 to 4,000 vehicles would be considered a high AADT, or higher, where, you know, you start to see congestion issues. Well, not congestion issues, but people are waiting longer to turn. You don't want that level of AADT in a residential neighborhood.
So an AADT of 400 is not high.
It is low. So as an example, our gravel to hardtop conversion threshold is 100 vehicles, 100 AADT. So it is quite low.
these were actually numbers from an inspection report in 2006.
You're good, Councillor Bell?
I'm not doubting the numbers, but it's the inference that it's a high number.
Right.
I just wanted to find out what the reference point was. Thank you.
Councillor Chambers and Councillor Oakley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just looking at your presentation. We did get copies of that. And specifically on pages 30, perhaps to 36.
Can you just turn your mic a bit, Councillor Chambers? Thank you.
On approximately pages 30 to 36, which is toward the end of your presentation,
Yep.
you make some points about urging council to reject the staff recommendation. I'm just wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on those last few slides, particularly as it relates to alternatives.
So once you actually add everything that the staff recommendation has, it's going to actually exceed the amount for a vehicle bridge at Cleaver Road. Not only are they recommending, so right at the very start, the detour was always going to be Robinson Road. And now it's just been actually solidified by this staff recommendation. So it just shows that right from the beginning, even when we first started petitioning, that this was always going to be the result. Robinson Road is a very dangerous hill. I know we throw out road names, but unless anyone's actually driven these roads, you would understand 100% when you have an 18-foot road and there's two vehicles, there's no room. There's a cliff on one side going down to Apps Mill, and then there's a mountain on your other side. There is nowhere to go, and many people use that route even just to access Apps Mill. I just thought it would be a safer way. Cleaver Road is a flat, wider than these other two proposals. There's farmland on one side, there's only 5 houses on the other side of the bridge. It's fast, direct, easy access opposed to the staff recommendations.
Okay. Councillor Chambers, you're good?
And again, in the slides, you did suggest some alternatives. I'm wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on that.
Oh, you're talking about the, back up the boat here.
Toward the end of the presentation with
The provincial.
the 30 to 36 slide range.
I'm not sure what you mean, but what I was trying to do was try to do a cost-effective restructure.
Yeah, you're in the neighborhood now. I'm just trying to give you an opportunity to
Thank you so
elaborate on
very
these
much.
slides that you didn't have a chance before.
The culvert, I received a quote, it's about 100,000 Canadian, and this is what it actually looks like, and this was an actual quote with actual dimensions. It wasn't a full-out engineering diagram or engineering bridge like that of Mill Street. This was a simple structure, a metal culvert that would accommodate one car, as it is now, as well as a dedicated bicycle or walking lane. So there's another quote as well from a different company. People in Ontario, different municipalities are actually using these systems for cost-effective solutions, and these are some of the townships that have already done this. And East Ontario, North Glengarry, this is their 6th already. Here's some of the pictures on what it looks like and the buried metal bridge benefits, and this would also meet Brant County's green initiative as stated in your own Simply Grand plan, as it leaves a smaller carbon footprint rather than concrete. So this also aligns with the provincial initiatives to reduce Brant County's carbon footprint. So I was told that the live load capacity is what is actually deterring us from using the Cleaver Road Bridge to vehicles. So I was given a capacity factor of 2.3. So if vehicles are still allowed because of the weight on the Cleaver Road Bridge, why don't we just do a temporary solution to do concrete barriers? This is a Walmart parking lot right here. And, yeah, so we can restrict large trucks, but still maybe use it for vehicles until we can find a better solution or a more cost-effective solution to fixing the bridge. There was also a bridge recently in Brantford. If this is what the Brant County Council wanted, which was a pedestrian bridge all along, why didn't we reach out to Brantford and perhaps purchase or repurpose their walking bridge for our own? That would have saved the taxpayer money as well.
Okay, who was next here? Counselor Oakley.
Yeah, through the chair to staff, I just wanted to pick out the one comment that the delegation brought up in terms of emergency response times. For this area, for the Highland Estates area, which would be our responding fire hall or fire halls? Just because looking at this, both from Burford and from the airport, I don't really see how Cleaver Road would be used for emergency services. So versus Mill Street or Robinson both seem like more direct routes. So just curious on the emergency services response to that.
Cindy?
Through the chair, typically it would be airport station as the primary station, and depending on the nature of the call, you'd potentially be calling in other stations as well. I can note that personnel at the airport station prior to the bridge closure would typically use Highway 53 to Mill Street or Highway 53 to 24 to Robinson Road to respond to a call in that area.
Thank you.
Can I, excuse me? Chief Watson actually said something totally different, and I have that in email at home as well. They do not use Robinson Road. A fire truck cannot go up that road being under 18 feet. That's the information that I received.
Chief, you want to come up and comment to that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to committee, we would use that with one of the smaller rescue vehicles, but our normal preferred route would be taken Mill Street.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Any other questions from committee? Okay, seeing none, I do have one question for clarification here myself. Andrea, what we received in our package, your slide, I believe it's your slide 6, when it talks about from Brant County's own published survey results.
Yep.
I see in your presentation today, you've added the word extremely, so now it's not just misleading, it's extremely misleading. And then also the next slide, you talk about results lack transparency and manipulating data. Not quite sure I like those two comments, so I would like to, excuse me. Okay, we have staff on here and I would like to get an understanding of how these results were published and what the results mean. Dana, I think you're online.
I am. Good morning.
Are you able to please speak to how these results were formulated and put together, please?
Absolutely. I can assure you that staff did not manipulate the data. They are collected and compiled through a third party, our third party engagement platform, Engagement HQ or Granicus. So when everything is entered into the system via online or paper copies that are submitted to our customer service staff, once we close the engagement for that, we pull a report, and that report is what was posted to our engagement platform. So any of the results that you see there are directly via that third-party platform. Staff do not touch that data, do not have access, even if we wanted to, to alter any of that data.
Sorry, are you able to elaborate a little bit on the average ranking as opposed to numbers of people?
Yes, so it's an average ranking question. which is actually a standard format for engagement. It's used across all engagement activities or a number of engagement activities. So it is, the number reflects relative preferences. So it's not a simple vote count per se, or a measure of absolute majority. It's a method that ensures participants, all of the input is counted equally and avoids misrepresenting totals when participants rank some options, but perhaps not others. So I know, Ms. Bowden, you mentioned in one of your slides that the 20 printed surveys that you had submitted to our customer service, the majority of those surveys only selected options 1 and 2 for that question 7 for that. So this average ranking actually ensures that all options selected are weighted equally and not just kind of to avoid, again, that front load. We want to make sure that everybody's selection is weighted equally in that. I do have, there is a formula that I'm not
Yeah, I have the
sure
formula there as well.
Okay, so that example. So if I can call this up, I'm not sure if I can share a screen or not.
Yeah, you should be able to share your screen, yes.
I can give you actually an example of how it's done directly through the Engagement HQ or the Granicus site. Bear with me just a moment. So can everybody see that okay?
We can, yeah.
Lovely. So the example that they provide is please rank the community farms in this area from 1 to 3, 1 being most preferred. So it's very similar to the question 7 that's referenced in the slide. So two respondents have answered the question as follows. Respondent 1, by the dock. Number 2, Green Acres, and 3, vertical soil. Respondent 2 selects Green Acres as their preferred, vertical soil, then by the dock. So to calculate the rank for Green Acres, you need to add up the total rank, so being 1, 2 equals 3, and then that's divided by the number of votes, so 2. So the calculation then becomes 1.5. So I'm not sure if you can see how they've done this below, but that is how the average rank is calculated. And again, that's done by our third party. We have no access to these calculations.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So, no other questions by committee? How do we want to go forward with this? Councillor Coleman?
Receive.
Seconder, Councillor Oakley. Any questions on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you, Andrea. Okay, next delegation is Judy Kostiuk. Did I pronounce that correctly? Again, if you could state your name and address for the clerk, and you have 10 minutes.
Yes, my name is Judy Kostiuk, and I live at 151 Mill Street, Brantford, Ontario. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the County of Brant Committee and everyone else that is here. We do not agree with the Brant County staff recommendations. My family and I strongly recommend we either build a new bridge or repair the existing bridge for vehicle traffic, as it was a well-traveled road in our neighborhood and safe for all our responders, much safer, quick access, and time-sensitive to our neighborhood in an emergency compared to the winding, hilly Robinson Road corridor on the other side of Beaver Road. I propose we build a new bridge to not only accommodate the vehicle traffic, but with a walkway on both sides for pedestrian traffic too. This way we are accommodating both the extra vehicle traffic, including direct traffic transportation and delivery needs we have, and the pedestrian walkers as well. This is necessary to our community. The time has come for the Brant community to fund local infrastructure, including roads and bridges. I believe the County of Brant has been aware of deteriorating conditions and upgrades that should have taken place through regular inspections for at least 20 years. The Municipal Act 2001 says the municipalities must maintain highways and bridges in a state of reasonable repair. Every year, our residential taxes have increased. Our community has only garbage collection and school busing. Also, we have limited streetlights. There are no streetlights on Mill Street. When can we have a few installed? We have all paid our taxes over the many years and would like to see that money used towards this new bridge or repaired bridge. What about when there are road closures on Highway 53/Coburn, Bethel Road, or Highway 24, even Mill Street, like just recently this month, for accidents or hydro repairs, etc.? We and the first responders would have had access to Cleaver Road if it was open. The Robinson Road, winding road, is not safe at the best of times, and in the winter it is very treacherous. Try to make a left or a right turn off that road to get onto Highway 24 is very dangerous. Mill Street near Highway 53 needs to be widened before we have a terrible accident. Now, because of the increased traffic on Mill Street from Robinson Road to Highway 53, including large transport trucks, Mill Street has more potholes and dips and definitely needs to be repaired. I strongly suggest that the county also find a few dollars to finish painting a yellow line from Bethel Road and Cleaver intersection all the way to the beauty barn where it picks up again. It's a small ticket item. This is for safety reasons when it's not only dark, as there are no streetlights on that road, but when it's foggy, raining, or winter bleak weather. This is not a big ticket item either. Our neighborhood consists of a combination of senior citizens, retired people, and working class folks that are still traveling back and forth to work. Our community is growing both in new homes and businesses establishing in and around the County of Brant, including the new Amazon building, which means more vehicle traffic flow through. In closing, I would like to say again, we do not agree with the county staff recommendations. I would very much like to see the County of Brant to seriously consider everything that I have proposed to you, as well as my neighbors' statements, and come back to us, the residents, with a viable, safe, and mutual solution. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you for that, Judy. Questions from committee? Seeing none, how would you like to proceed? Mayor Bailey?
Receive his information.
To receive, seconder, Councillor Howes. Questions? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Next delegation is Rosemary and John, is it Prohaska? That's it. Welcome. State your name and address, and again, you have 10 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor Bailey, council members, and county staff. My name is Rosemary Prohaska, and I am here on behalf of myself and my husband, John. We live at 5 St. Andrew's Court. We have proudly called this community home for almost 40 years. I am here to speak regarding the closure and potential reopening of the Cleaver Road Bridge to vehicles. Community safety is at the heart of our concern. I would like to read to you a message that I shared with many Highland Estate residents on September the 20th, 2023, shortly after the Cleaver Road Bridge was abruptly closed to vehicle traffic. Quote, recently I spoke with the project manager from the county office about the closure and reopening of the Cleaver Road Bridge. The news about the repair and reopening of the bridge was not what I hoped to hear. From my understanding, a study will be done about the bridge with possible alternatives, removal of the bridge permanently and installation of a pedestrian bridge only, and or reroute vehicle traffic down Apps Mill Hill with improvements to Apps Mill Hill, or reconstruct a new bridge for vehicle traffic. The process of determining and resolving the situation of the Cleaver Road Bridge will take 2 to 3 years, apparently. Public consultation is planned at some point. End of quote. The abrupt closure of the Cleaver Road Bridge to vehicle traffic came as a shock to area residents. We were totally unaware that it had become so unsafe over the years. According to the Municipal Act 2001, municipalities are responsible for keeping bridges in a reasonable state of repair. We were unaware that Brant County had not met that responsibility. The fact that it hadn't been met offends the very spirit of the Act. Through my communication with county staff way back on September 20th, 2023, it became evident that this decision to close Cleaver Road Bridge to vehicle traffic had likely been under consideration for some time. The presence of a readily available list of alternatives to reopening the bridge to vehicles suggested that plans were already in place at the county level, well ahead of the closure. And so here we are today, more than 2 years later, still debating whether or not to open the bridge on Cleaver Road for vehicle traffic. This ongoing uncertainty has left residents feeling frustrated and dismissed. It's not just about infrastructure, it's about reliable access and safety for those who rely on this route. Since we first moved to Highland Estates, the number of residents has grown dramatically, from just a few dozen to approximately 160 homes. As our neighborhood has expanded, so too have our concerns about safety, whether it's the poor lighting and speeding through the blind intersection at Bethel and Cleaver Road, or the unreliable and inadequate lighting on our residential streets. These issues have made it clear that we, the area residents, must be our own advocates. We must continue to speak up and be heard when the situation affects our safety as a community. The closure of the bridge is certainly an inconvenience, but our concerns are not about inconvenience. They are about the potential risk of delayed emergency response times, about ensuring that emergency services, that our families and residents have safe and reliable access throughout our neighborhood. I understand there is a debate at the county level about whether the Cleaver Road Bridge was ever used by emergency vehicles. Many residents believe that it was, while some county officials reject that. But that debate is now dead. What matters is the future. Given the size and ever-growing population of our neighborhood, the bridge should be reopened to vehicles, both to emergency and residential vehicles moving forward. Additional safety concerns have emerged as traffic volumes along Highway 24 and 53 continue to grow, especially now that it has been confirmed that Amazon will form part of the new industrial park at Rest Acres. When either Highway 24 or 53 is closed due to emergencies, a situation that is becoming increasingly frequent and all too familiar, the closure of the Cleaver Road Bridge removes a critical detour route. Instead, traffic is now funneled through residential Highland Estates, which is not a suitable alternative, especially given the high number of commercial vehicles involved, as witnessed as recently as on October the 7th, 2025, with the partial closure of Highway 53. County personnel have suggested that residents use Robinson Road, commonly known as Apps Mill Hill, as one alternative route to enter and exit Highland Estates. However, this suggestion is deeply problematic. The steep slope of the hill, the narrowness of the road, the curves, the speed and volume of traffic on Highway 24, onto which drivers must turn or exit, make this route unsafe and impractical. While the county has proposed redesigning Robinson Road to improve safety, we must ask, how will this be done and at what cost? Not only financially, but also in terms of the environmental impact on the surrounding Apps Mill and Highland Estates area. Despite the new proposed staff recommendation to resurface Robinson Road and rehabilitate the Robinson Road Bridge in order for it to seem more user-friendly, it still does not make it a safer, viable alternative to opening the Cleaver Road Bridge. Robinson Road will continue to have a steep slope, remain narrow, have curves, and most importantly for our community, we will still have to navigate the speed and volume of traffic on Highway 24. So once again, area residents continue to express serious safety concerns regarding the closure of the Cleaver Road Bridge to vehicle traffic. This is not a request driven by personal gain or a desire to save time. It is based on the need to protect the safety and well-being of our community and those who travel the network of highways that connect us. And may I say that the proposed staff recommendation to make improvements to Robinson Road and as well to address roadway improvements to Mill Street are a mere smokescreen to the real issue of concern that our community continues to bring forth, which is to reopen the Cleaver Road Bridge to vehicles. I have to wonder why there is so much county opposition to reopening the Cleaver Road Bridge to vehicle traffic. Is it really all about money? Yes, yet we have money for the proposed work along Robinson Road and Mill Street and the Cleaver Road alterations. Could it be that there is another plan for Cleaver Road and for our area, of which area residents know nothing, but one that requires permanent closure of the Cleaver Road Bridge to vehicle traffic? After all, council permitted serious lack of repair of the Cleaver Road Bridge and then abruptly closed it without any prior warning or input from the community. Are we in for another surprise development from the county? And so I conclude by saying that reopening this bridge is not just about restoring a route. It's also about ensuring that emergency services have reliable access, that traffic is managed responsibly, and that future generations benefit from the thoughtful infrastructure decisions. By restoring this vital link, Council would be demonstrating a commitment to the long-term protection and well-being of its citizens as the area continues to grow and develop. We are called to be stewards of our environment and to manage our resources and finances responsibly for the common good. It is with respect for the difficult decisions this council must make that my husband and I, along with dozens of other area residents, request the reopening of the Cleaver Road Bridge to vehicle traffic. If for no other reason, it is simply the right thing to do for everyone's safety. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Questions from committee? We'll start with Councillor Oakley.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, not a question, but a comment. I just wanted to sort of highlight the one comment in regards to when the bridge was closed, we came out with alternatives of what we might do with it. I just wanted to highlight there where, you know, on the other hand, with lots of the construction going on around, we hear concerns that the county is not thinking things forward. I wanted to highlight that we do this and we have alternatives, not because the county has some fix for one direction or the other, but because our staff are competent, they're doing their due diligence and ensuring that before we take an action such as closing a bridge, that we have alternatives, that we've considered options. So I just wanted to highlight that this is an example of staff doing their jobs correctly. And in regards to the emergency services comment, we just had our comments from the Director of Community Services and from the Fire Chief himself saying that Cleaver Road is not, and the bridge is not used for emergency services. So I just wanted to highlight that that's already been addressed here by emergency services themselves. Thank you.
Excuse me, may I comment to that? Emergency services include fire, ambulance, and police, not just fire.
Thank you. Any other questions from committee? Okay, seeing none, how do we want to proceed? Councillor Miller?
I'll move to receive, Mr. Chair.
Mayor Bailey seconds that. Questions? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you, Rosemary.
Thank you very much.
Next up, we've got Brad. Is it Matthias? Brad. Okay. Come on up. Again, your name and address for the clerk, and we have 10 minutes.
Good morning. name is Brad Battius. I live at 370 Robinson Road, just at the top of this Apsmell Hill that we're talking about. I've been living at my current address for about 40 years. I picked this area because I'm a country boy who grew up in Burford and basically grew up working on tobacco farms like so many others. I picked my current home location knowing that I had direct access to Highway 53 by using Cleaver Road over the bridge that is now closed. This allowed me reliable and safe access to Highway 53, bypassing Rest Acres Road as it is always busy. Even back then, traveling from Robinson Road and turning left across traffic north onto Rest Acres Road towards Paris could be at times dangerous. Now it's almost suicidal. And from Robinson Road, even turning right onto Rest Acres Road to Highway 53, you must patiently wait and try creeping up to the corner to see past all the shrubbery blocking your view of oncoming traffic. Nothing has been done by Brant County to make this intersection safer. The other issue with this intersection is that when you are traveling along Rest Acres Road from either direction and want to turn onto Robinson Road, cars and trucks fly past you in the short dedicated right turning lane only instead of slowing down or waiting. This is extremely dangerous and causes numerous near misses. I brought up this concern years ago when the roundabout meeting at the arena was held a few years back, and asked at that time that longer right turning lanes should be added for safety, and especially new separate dedicated left turning lanes for turning on a Robinson Road from either direction. I was ignored. It will only be a matter of time before someone at a complete stop turning to the left is injured at this intersection. The odds of this happening will become greater now that the ridiculous suggestion that Robinson Road be used for regular traffic detours instead of Cleaver Road over the now closed bridge. In my opinion, and most would agree, this is not the best or safest idea. If some people think that Robinson Road is safe or fine to travel up or down the hill by Apps Mill, they have never tried it in the snow or severe weather, or met a truck coming up towards them on the bend. I myself almost had a bad accident going down that very hill very slowly in the winter. My truck turned sideways and I continued down the hill that way until the bottom. It could have been so much worse. I could have gone over the railing or T-boned with somebody coming up. Needless to say, I did not go this way in snowy or slippery weather. Rebuilding the Cleaver Road Bridge would help eliminate this safety issue. My episode was very minor, but as Brant County grows and more industrial businesses pop up on Rest Acres Road, now Amazon, what will happen when more and more people use this already dangerous route? I find it hard to believe that first responders and large trucks want to even attempt Robinson Road Hill at any time of the year, let alone in bad weather. Promoting this route, directing or detouring traffic to Robinson Road, now because Cleaver Road Bridge is closed, feels negligent and is a disregard for safety by council and staff recommendations thus far. The single-lane bridge on Cleaver Road is narrow. However, everyone knew that the closest person to the bridge goes across first. This has always been the way and was never a problem. There are many ways to keep big trucks from using the bridge. Example, larger and definitive signage and height bars on both sides of the bridge, something similar to drive-in restaurants. These are safe measures that could be implemented if wanted. A situation very similar to ours recently happened on Salt Springs Road in Brant County. Although it wasn't a bridge closure, it's a road closure. It also separated neighbors and made traveling around the closure a longer process, which also impacted emergency services. According to the newspaper report, this road had been deteriorating for years without the county stepping in. People depend and require safe infrastructure like bridges and roads, which are one of the main responsibilities of Brant County. Mayor Bailey stated on record that he supports the Salt Springs Road repair because this community has never asked for anything before. Now we're asking, please fix our bridge. I have noticed that the Cleaver Road Bridge project seems controversial and to pose a big problem for council. We've yet to hear the real reason as to why. It shouldn't be the cost, as Brant County seems to find funds for everyone's projects. So now that Robinson Road is used more, it is deteriorating also because of heavy traffic. This road used to be gravelled and tarred every few years, but I'm unsure the last time it was maintained. Brant County does not seem to be maintaining our existing infrastructure in return for the taxes paid by residents. Existing infrastructure should be the first and foremost. Extras and new projects should not be created unless there is money available. Projects that Brant County has plans are projects that have maintenance costs associated with them in order to keep them going. This is not sustainable for any of us. Bringing so many new homes to the area is not the answer either. It is creating the opposite effect. You cannot continue to tax your way out of the growing expenses. So please stop and regroup. Unfortunately, since the Cleaver Bridge has been closed, it has become a dumping ground for people's junk. I have pictures of items that are thrown into Whiteman's Creek or dumped into the ditch. A large aquarium, chairs, wood paneling, styrofoam chunks. At one time, an abandoned house trailer sat at the side of the road for a few weeks. Some items were picked up and properly disposed of by our community. Larger items didn't get cleaned up until citizens informed Brant County. This is what is created when the traffic flow is stopped. In closing, the Cleaver Bridge has been a talked about issue between us for 2.5 long years. There have been many meetings, many ignored community comments, surveys, and petitions. However, Brant County's reports hint that the closure of the Cleaver Bridge is not a real concern for our community. The public information session at the airport should have opened your eyes. We packed the place. If Brant County thought that the Cleaver Bridge closure meant nothing to us, then why did a sign have to be posted during that meeting asking for civility and respectful behavior? That kind of precaution usually reflects an awareness that tensions are high and frustrations are present. It's important to acknowledge that this frustration comes from a feeling that our community's voices aren't being heard, but rather dismissed. Council members are elected to represent the people and respond to their concerns, and many feel that this hasn't been happening. Here's a chance to reset the conversation, change the narrative, to ensure that leadership is more aligned with the community's priorities. Please vote to rebuild the Cleaver Road Bridge for vehicles, rebuild the minimum of a single-lane bridge, if we have to, in a cost-effective manner to connect both sides once again. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Questions from committee? Okay, seeing none, how do we want to proceed? Councillor House?
I move to receive for information.
Councillor Bell will second that. No further questions? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, and Mark. Mark Hedden? Welcome again. State your name and address, and you have 10 minutes. Thank
Sure.
you.
Good morning, Mayor, councilors, staff, and fellow delegates. My name is Mark Hedden. I'm a resident of 170 Cleaver Road, the road in question, next to the bridge in discussion today. I'm here speaking on behalf of myself, my family, our neighbors, the 5 houses that live north of the bridge, and the many voices likely unrepresented in this engagement process, the other taxpayers outside of our community, and the recreational users that use the bridge as their new area. I respectfully urge council to actually accept the staff recommendation and keep the bridge closed to vehicular traffic for 3 key reasons: safety, fiscal responsibility, and a recognition that the area has evolved since the bridge has been closed. Safety first. Since the bridge closed, our road has become significantly safer. From dawn to dusk, residents from Cleaver, Robinson, and Northeastern Highland Road walk the road daily. Foot traffic peaks from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and again in early evening, which aligns with the typical commuting hours of the people that I've discussed today, what they would like to see with the bridge reopened for. Reopening the bridge would compromise the safe pedestrian use that occurs daily. Abstinent parking has been regularly overflowing, and many visitors now park along the shoulders without concern for passing traffic. This pattern is consistent year-round, especially increasing during fishing season or anytime the weather is warm. Our section of Cleaver Road has seen a rejuvenation, with young families and children using the road safely each day. And based on my observations of traffic on Bethel, Robinson, and Mill Street, I have very little confidence that drivers will respect posted speed limits if the bridge reopened. We have even heard today that people prioritize fast access when reopening Cleaver Road Bridge. As someone who lives directly on the road and whose travel time to West Brant would in theory be most affected by the bridge reopening or being closed, I can say the impact has been manageable or nearly negligible. I do have heard my neighbors' concern today about the safety at Robinson Road and Highway 24, as well as Highway 53 and Mill Street, and I highly encourage council and staff to explore joint funding discussions with the province to improve those intersections and address safety concerns and improve traffic flow through. Additionally, I agree with the recommendation from a fiscal point of view. Maintaining the bridge for pedestrian use is a fiscally responsible choice for this county, given the number of other county projects requiring attention, as highlighted just recently last week in the newspaper. Repair or replacement of the bridge introduces significant upfront and ongoing costs, as outlined in the recommendation, and also along with an uncertainty around long-term road quality about expectations about how it should be presented and behaved. Currently, the county is currently benefiting from the reduced maintenance. The 1.2 kilometer stretch south of the bridge was unplowed last winter, likely accounting for notable savings across the winter savings months. I do ask council and my fellow delegates to consider what other legacy projects could be achieved with $3 to $4 million asked for the bridge restoration or repair. What other lasting improvements could we make elsewhere in the county for safety or for services other than one single bridge? Finally, I would like to make sure everyone understands, since the closure in 2023, the bridge and the county and the area have evolved. Apps Mills holds a special place in the hearts of many, from residents of Cleaver, Robinson, Highland, to people I have met from Burford and even Brantford. The bridge's closure has now created an opportunity for the area to flourish as a recreational space these past years. In recent weeks alone, next to the bridge itself, I have seen a father and his two sons wading and exploring the creek, a motorcyclist reading quietly under the maple tree, photographers and birds capturing fall colors directly from the bridge, and fishermen chatting in the creek. Just this past weekend with the warm weather, we had multiple families crossing the bridge together and enjoying the access between both north side and south side unhindered by traffic. What all these moments share is a peace, safeful space made possible only by the absence of through traffic. Visitors continue to park safely on the north side and the south side and enjoy the area without disruption. I strongly support the recommendation to incorporate a turnaround, which would further enhance the recreational usability of the space. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay, thank you for that, Mark. Questions from committee? Seeing none, how do we want to proceed? Mayor Bailey?
See for information.
Councilor Coleman? Second that. Any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, that concludes our delegations for today, so we are going to move into section 5.
Boo. They're booing.
Guess you didn't like him.
Where did he go?
We're just going to give just a quick minute here.
Hope he's gonna be all right, Brian.
Okay, so 5.1, Administration and Operations Committee Minutes of September 16th. Can I get a mover, please? Councillor Howes, seconder. Councillor Oakley, questions on that report? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none, we'll move on to section 7, consent items to be approved. We've got, looks as though we've got a few of them here. 7.1, consent items to be approved. Does anybody want any pulled? Counselor Howes?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can we pull 7.1.1? And I've got a couple questions and comments when we get to it.
Okay. Counselor Bell?
If we could pull 716, please.
7.1.6. Okay. Anybody, Counselor Miller?
Number 4 and number 7, please.
Just leave them all then.
Pull them all.
Let's go through them.
Okay, so we're gonna go through them one by one now. So 7.1.1, Counselor Howes, you had a question on that?
Thanks. Do I need to put it on the floor
Let's
first?
put it, we'll go one by one on the floor.
So I'll-
Counselor Howes, Counselor Oakley. Counselor Howes, go ahead.
In moving it, I was wondering if we could vote on the two items separately. And I have a question for staff about item number 2.
Okay, go ahead with your question.
So my question is, and I remember us having some discussions about this, the curbside Christmas tree collection program be discontinued for an estimated cost reduction of $10,000 per year. And I wanted to, and I seem to recall that some of the informal maybe discussion about this was people get their Christmas trees to their homes somehow. Hopefully, the same method can be used to get their Christmas trees to the dump, the land transfer, whatever it's actually called. And so my question for Andrea is, there will be a time period after Christmas where people can deliver their Christmas trees to the land transfer station for free still?
Andrea?
Through the chair, through to Councillor Howes, it is all year long that residents can provide leaf and yard waste to the transfer station or landfill free of charge. There is no time limit on that.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, any other questions on 7.1.1? Okay, so we're gonna vote on them separately. So all in favor of 7.1.1, number 1? Opposed? That is carried. All in favor of 7.1.1, number 2? Opposed? That is also carried. Okay, 7.1.2, somebody put it on the floor? Mayor Bailey, Councilor Miller, questions on 7.1.2? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 7.1.3, get it on the floor. Councilor Kyle, Councilor Coleman. Questions on 7.1.3? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 7.1.4, put it on the floor. Councilor Coleman, Councilor Oakley, Councilor Miller, you had a question on point 4?
Yeah, in that report, they talk about an award drain, and those award drains, mostly, I guess, for agricultural areas. And those award drains were set up by the Ditches and Water Courses Act, which was, I guess, repealed in 1963, so it's been a while. But I don't know, I want to ask if staff are aware of how many award drains we actually have in the county, and are they kind of similar to what the municipal drains were until recently? In other words, did we just not pay much attention to them? So where I'm going with this, are we going to see more award drains being brought into the municipal drains, and are we going to expect maybe a bigger bill as a result of this? Just looking for a little bit of background on award drains in the county, if we have any.
Andrew?
Through the chair to Councillor Miller, I don't have that number off the top of my head. We will be coming forward in the new year with the first municipal drain annual report, and I can make sure that we, articulate the number of kilometers of award drains. As we do larger maintenance activities and capital projects on municipal drains, we will, over time, include those in part of the municipal drain in the new Drainage Act, if the residents so choose.
I'll wait for the annual report, thank you.
Okay, any other questions on 7.1.4? Councilor Coleman?
Not a question, Mr. Chair, just a comment.
Certainly.
Just glad to see this moving forward. It's been a while. Thank you.
It has, yes. Okay, so no other questions on 7.1.4, so all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 7.1.5, can we get a mover to get it on the floor? Counselor Coleman, Counselor Kyle. Counselor Miller, did you have something on 5, or was it 6 and 7?
Just number 7.
Okay, so 7.1.5, we got a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 7.1.6, Counselor Bell will ask you to move that. Seconder for that. Counselor McAlpine. Counselor Bell, you had a question on that one?
I do. Actually, I have a couple of questions. The Dundas Street West recommendation is to implement stopping prohibited anytime, which is a change, I think, from its current situation, which is stopping, which it allows parking. So are we moving from no parking to no stopping? Sorry, are we moving from parking to no stopping?
Through the chair, I brought Rick with me today. He's been having some one-on-one conversations, and there's a lot to that. So I'm going to let Rick answer that because he's got the background on the personal conversations with the residents.
Perfect. Thank you. Rick?
Thank you, Chair, Councillor Bell. So regarding Dundas Street, if I understand the question correctly, you're just wanting to know where the existing parking restrictions are located prior to this report?
Through the chair, my question is, right now parking is permitted on the east side of the road, and you're going to go straight from parking permitted to no stopping.
Right, so currently parking is permitted on both sides of the road, east and west side. So there is no stopping. When we implemented the traffic signals at Dundas and King Edward, we recommended no stopping for approximately 50 meters on both sides to allow for visibility at the intersection. So we're just basically extending it on the east side. So we're just adding parking restrictions on the east side from that point over around the curve. So the parking will still be recommended on the one side.
Yeah, it's just that we seem to have gone from allowing parking.
Yeah.
We skipped the no parking bit and gone straight to no stopping. And I just hope residents understand that's okay. I have another question on Dundas Street, on Grand River Street. Out here, I applaud the idea of 15-minute zones and loading zones. I still believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we haven't adjusted the size of each parking bay. It's just a normal standard size of parking bay. My own belief is that we should make them bigger so that people can drive in and drive out and avoid any hold-ups on Grand River Street North. And I would ask you to comment on that.
Thank you to the chair and councillor. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that the distances are now 10 meters. And I'm just going to confirm that prior to...
At that, Rick, I'm looking at the drawing. It says 6.75, and if the answer is 10, my question is done. Thank you.
Okay.
Can you confirm that? It is?
So through the chair, it is 10 meters.
It is 10 meters? Okay.
For the loading zones.
Thank you.
Well, my suggestion is we make it 10 for every zone to allow the drive-in, drive-out. It will just save us so much heartache and hassle as we go forward. And we might lose, I don't know, another 5 parking spaces, but we have intentions to put more parking behind where we're sitting today. We will make up the number of parking spots without any problem, and we will save ourselves a lot of problems.
Okay. We're going to go Councillor Howes, Councillor Oakley, Councillor Chambers.
Well, thank you through the chair to Rick. Similar to Councillor Bell's question, my question's about Kathleen Street. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit anecdotally about that, because there will be questions, I'm sure, but I assume it relates to the kind of still an ongoing chaos related to people dropping off their kids for North Ward School on the north gate. But could you just fill us in a little bit on the backstory of going to no stopping?
Sure. To the chair and councillor, thank you for that question. So currently, Kathleen Street and it's a U-shaped. So currently Kathleen Street off of Market Street, and that has no stopping on one side and parking's recommended on the other. That little stretch around the corner has regulations of 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. And so basically parking is available there, but they have to remove it between that time limit. And what we've, to accommodate to match what currently is there, we just recommended no stopping on one side and allow parking on the other to accommodate that whole U-shaped area to be identical.
Councillor Oakley, then Councillor Chambers.
Through the chair to staff, I just wanted to sort of highlight the addition of the electric vehicle and electric vehicle charging bylaw or section to our bylaw. I want to commend staff on that for moving forward on our climate action plan and making some meaningful change there. I just wanted to clarify in terms of no person shall park a vehicle in an electric vehicle charging station that is identified by a sign unless the vehicle is an electric vehicle and the vehicle is attached to the station's charging equipment. I'm curious if there's other jurisdictions nearby that have anything in regards to the vehicle needing to be actively charging or having recently finished charging, as opposed to simply being attached. As it stands right now, my vehicle will be fully charged. I could just go plug in and use it as a exclusive parking space as opposed to actually using it for the charging purpose. So I'm just curious whether or not other jurisdictions have looked at making that a little narrower, or whether or not this is sort of standard in how folks are handling it.
Greg?
Through the chair to Councilor Oakley, this was brought forward by Greg Bergeron and the bylaw group, and they did canvass other municipalities, and we came up with the strongest approach for this that seemed to be the fairest. Because it's new here, I know they are going to actively monitor it and get some feedback from the community, and we may have to make some adjustments in the future if we do find people taking up spots. Okay?
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Chambers.
Just if I could, just some clarification so I can explain it to people that ask me. And that's with regard to the parking of transport trucks in residential areas. It's suggested that an amendment be made that no person shall park a heavy truck in a residential area. And then you define heavy trucks as vehicles unloaded not to exceed 4.5 metric tons. So that would exclude, or that actually would include most tractors. Tractors is what I'm saying. Is that correct?
Through the chair, I believe so. I would have to get, I don't know if Cheryl can comment on that, but I would have to get some input from bylaw on that. But if it's over and the weight's restricted there and it's not part of the vehicles that are mentioned here in the exemption, I would believe that it would apply, yes.
Okay, so if I'm a truck driver and I have my tractor and I park in my driveway in Mount Pleasant or Burford or wherever, that now is not allowed, and it has been allowed? Is that correct, or has it always been prohibited?
I will have to get clarification from bylaw on that one, because that's a bylaw enforcement question.
And pursuant to that, if someone is already doing that before the bylaw is passed, is that a legal non-conforming situation where he can continue to do that even though the bylaw exists until such time as he doesn't have a truck anymore?
So through the chair, I'll take these back, and I just want to make sure I'm taking back the exact question. You mentioned parking on private property versus road, right?
Yes.
In residential areas?
Yes.
Okay.
And the other question that's related to that is that there are several that I can think of places where repairs are made to trucks in residential areas, and in order for the repairs to be made, trucks are parked at the repair places. Does this include or exclude repair places and service places for tractors of trucks. For those that don't, a tractor is a truck. And also a tractor for that matter. So if you could clarify that for me so people know what the situation is going on. And I can tell you that I know of many, many people that park their tractors in residential areas when they're not trucking. And I know of many residential areas where they have repair facilities where trucks are parked. And I do know that people don't usually park on the street, but they do park on their own property. So if you can clarify those perhaps before the bylaw is passed.
Okay. You got that? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Councillor Bell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure whether, if I don't bring forward an amendment right now, I think those parking spaces out there are going to be standard parking spaces. Could somebody confirm that?
So that is correct, through the chair, that is correct. We're doing the line painting right now. The way that most of those parking spaces are designed, it would be an adjustment of line painting.
So I'm going to propose an amendment that those parking spaces outside on Grand River Street North are made larger to accommodate drive-in, drive-out. And I'm looking for a seconder.
Councillor Oakley. Discussion on that?
The only discussion is that if we don't do it, we're going to run into difficulties right from the very get-go when that road is opened. There will be all kinds of difficulties and hold-ups that will arise.
Councillor Howes, Councillor Oakley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I respect the spirit in which this amendment's being made. However, I think in order to be able to support or not support this idea, we would have to have a clear illustration of what it costs us in parking spots. Right, so I think that's something that I don't know whether we have to, I don't know how that happens quickly or how it, but I think we can't make the decision without that information.
We may be able to pull that particular one. Yeah. Councillor Oakley?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. I'm in support of Councillor Bell's amendment here in principle. My one concern, and a question to staff, would this change impact our timelines out there at all? Just because we need to get things done and buttoned up before Remembrance Day and before the holidays. So just making sure that in having to replan this at all, it doesn't impact our timelines.
So through the chair to Councillor Oakley, as far as impacting timelines, at this point, we wouldn't be changing curbs to accommodate the request. Those are poured. It would be, as Councillor Howes indicated, more of an analysis of, okay, what would the spots look like? And I think the other thing that I think we should look into is, you know, is the 6.75 meters enough for the average vehicle to pull in, pull out? But to answer your question, is that in reopening the road, no, it would not impact timelines, assuming we're making no curbing changes.
Okay, so I think what we're gonna do here is for this particular item regarding the, Councillor Miller, go ahead.
Just going to ask, perhaps Councillor Bell could hold off on that amendment till next Tuesday, till council, till we get more information as far as number of spots and if it's doable and all that.
What I was gonna suggest is we could defer that particular one until we could vote on everything else, defer that particular one until council next week, and staff can bring something back for that, because that way everything else.
Basically the same thing.
Yeah, everything else will go through, yeah. Okay, so, any other questions on 7.1.6? Councillor Chambers?
Could we do the same thing with the truck parking issues? And I just thought of another situation where in residential areas, there are businesses situated in residential areas that oftentimes have dump trucks or whatever, and that's another issue that may arise that needs clarification.
Did you want to do that?
I'll move that we defer this report until council.
The full report?
Yeah, to get additional information on the questions raised.
Second to Counselor Coleman. Okay, so we're gonna defer the whole report until council. More information will come back on the parking out here and with the trucks, the tractors. Okay, everybody's good on that? All in favor of deferral? Opposed? Okay, thank you for that. So that will be deferred till council. Okay, so 7.1.7, mover to get it on the floor. Counselor Kyle, Counselor Oakley, Counselor Miller, you had 7.1.7.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I understand why we delegate to staff. It makes things run a little more efficiently here at the county. Sometimes I wonder how the city of Toronto would deal with everything that we deal, that they'd never stop meeting. So you got to delegate certain things. I got that. I understand that. When we delegate, we kind of lose our ability, I guess, to give input on what we've delegated. And it's not just the councilors and the mayor that have lost that ability to give input. We've also, the public loses it as well, because we're their voice. They give us a call, they shoot us an email or whatever, and they want to know how they can give input on a certain thing, and then we come here and present that. And I'll give you one example, and in this report, Cheryl talks, one of the things she mentioned was site plan control, which I already thought we weren't allowed to give input on. I know we're not allowed to bump it up to planning for a decision. So I'll get down very specifically. How does a member of the public give input on a site plan? And I'll get even more specific. We had Stoobies come before us last Tuesday. There was quite a few residents concerned, I think, and rightly so. But a lot of their concerns could be, will be, should be addressed through site plan control. I don't know how somebody from the public who has a concern would give input, say, on the site plan control or any of these other matters that, again, we've delegated them to staff. Do we still have an ability to give input?
Alicia?
Through the chair to Councillor Miller's question. So with regards to site plan control, you're right, the province has indicated that is staff. And so what staff would be looking for is they would just be enacting the policies, zoning bylaw, that kind of thing, that council has directed. So similar to a building permit process, it's not a public process in the sense that because there is no Planning Act circulation component of that anymore, we wouldn't circulate to residents. So in terms of whether or not individuals had concerns about something under site plan, I'm not really sure how members of the public would have the ability to comment in a public format or through planning. They would just have to trust that the planners are enacting the processes that are established in the direction that's established by council.
Councilor Miller?
Yeah, that's unfortunate, in that the public have to trust that staff would do that. I guess in getting specific to the site plan is a lot of why we have site plans is to minimize those impacts and disruptions to the public who live in the vicinity. So that's most unfortunate. I don't know where to go with this. I'm just expressing frustration, I guess, that's the case. If somebody calls me, if somebody asks, I'll suggest they come to planning, or at least let the planning committee, which is now a council meeting, know of their concerns at the time, and maybe that can get through to staff at this point. But I would certainly welcome another avenue, I guess.
Okay. Any other questions on 7.1.7? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, moving on to section 7.2, consent items to be received. Looks as though we've got two of them there. Councillor Oakley?
Looking to separate 7.2.1.
So we're gonna vote on these one at a time. Let's get them both on the floor here. Councillor Oakley, Councillor Bell. So speak to 7.2.1, Councillor Oakley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the resolution included in the letter that we received from the City of St. Catharines, I'd like us to consider this resolution next week. So I'm formally requesting that we do so. I just wanted to sort of highlight, even based on today's meeting, some of the elements that are addressed in here in sort of the decrease in civility in politics and sort of public discourse. You know, today we had a comment in regards to us putting up signage at a public meeting about lack of civility and it suggesting that we thought a public meeting might go a certain way or not. I think unfortunately it's just reflective of the current environment. And I think that that's part of what this resolution looks to at least acknowledge. Even further to that, you know, we had some of our delegations today receive some negative feedback from people in the audience. That as well is also inappropriate. We should be engaging in discourse respectfully, and I think this addresses that. So I'd like for us to discuss this resolution next week because I think there can be more we can be doing to at least acknowledge and sort of help our electoral process and our democratic engagement be more inviting for folks to engage with.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions on that one? And no questions on 7.2.2? That report? We've got them both on the floor seconded. All those in favor to receive? Opposed? Those are carried. Thank you. Section 8, Cleaver Road Bridge Future Direction. Mark? Can I get a mover to get it on the floor? Councillor Coleman, second. Councillor McAlpine. Mover, second, Coleman, McAlpine. Should we give these guys 10 minutes as well? Okay, go ahead, guys.
Through the chair to council, good morning. We've put together a presentation for the Cleaver Road Bridge. There it is. Oh, which one is which? There we go. So, just going through some background, bridges, structures that we have, culverts, they typically have a 75-year lifespan. Over that lifespan, it normally includes 2 to 3 rehabilitations and other various works to maintain it, depending on the type of material of construction of that structure. The time difference between when the evaluation was completed and when the actual bridge was closed to traffic, it was in consultation with the author of the report, and between their experience and staff experience and our technical knowledge as to why we didn't close it immediately, because I know that question has come up in the past. We were looking at the potential of lowering the load limit and other things to try to maintain it, and as we have all discussed before, it was closed due to the overweight trucks using it. And so in the difference in time between the public engagement and the closure of the structure was we had to get some other background reports completed. So the Cultural Heritage Evaluation Report, which is the SHARE, and the Heritage Impact Assessment were both completed because of the heritage value of that structure, and it helped to inform what were the available options to us based on the heritage of that structure. Because that question has also come up about why did it take us so long between the two. So from the public engagement, we saw a number of themes that were that came through. Traffic safety being one of the most important, both on Mill Street and Robinson Road, as we heard from the delegations this morning. Increased speed in traffic, and we also did hear from residents or other and respondents that there was a perceived speeding issue on Cleaver Road when the bridge is open itself. And we are not encouraging these local roads to be used as detour routes or pass-throughs for non-local traffic. That's not the intent, or never was the intent of anything that we've done. Highway 53 or Colborne Street West, Highway 24, Bishopsgate, and to a lesser extent Bethel Road are all the preferred roads within the area to be used for additional and heavier volume of traffic. We did discuss about the traffic, and the ADT from another standpoint. 1,000 ADT is where we switch from typically from asphalt, like to an asphalt road versus a surface treatment road. So anything under 1,000, just to add, when there was discussion about, is this the low volume road? So in our reference, yes, it would be considered a low volume road because all the roads in that area are only surface treated. Pedestrian connectivity was also another one that was discussed. And it was highlighted by the one delegation about the ability to walk on Cleaver and in the area and by the bridge. And they feel safe, and they are now able to do so. Equity investment, rural versus urban. We've heard this theme come up different times. Salt Springs Church Road, this structure, it just seems to be more out there. Impacts on travel time and accessibility. We did hear from the fire chief and we did speak with other EMS as a part of our consultation process. And we did not receive any information back from any of them that the closure of the bridge was an issue. It's within their mapping, they know it's closed. There's available routes otherwise to get there. And also we did our own investigation just from Google. And so I punched into Google if I lived right at the corner of Robinson Road and 24, and I did not want to go and make the turn onto 24 and go around. So Google will tell you it's a 6-minute difference. So that's under normal traffic conditions. We know that there can be higher traffic in rush hour on 24. At Colborne Street, there are issues there. I think some of that's been resolved with trying to get the timing improved. Cost and lifespan options. Everyone wants best value for money. So as staff, we're responsible to provide options to council around the whole, everything that we do, all the assets, how we manage them with the available funds that we have. So it's not just this one structure. We have to look at everything across the entire community across the county as to where everything needs to go. And then the environmental community value. The area in that so the Whiteman's Creek is a cold water fishery for trout, so it is a protected creek. The closure has created a new sense of community, as was noted earlier. People are enjoying the area from a recreational standpoint. Also, because it's a cold water creek, it limits options available to us from a replacement or rehabilitation standpoint. We cannot put anything in the river itself within the travel portion of the river. We typically would not get approval from the GRCA to do so. So that means that we have to span over the entire creek. So some of the options that were discussed or presented are not actually available for us to do. We have to follow other things. So it's not as simple as dropping something in the river. So going through the options and the cost and value. So options presented to the public were informed through the SHARE and the HIA and staff consultation and discussions. And we covered everything from the do nothing and just let the bridge sit as it is to removal and full replacement. As you can see, the cost was one of the determining factors, but it wasn't the only one. When you look at life cycle costing, it is a better way to determine infrastructure investment cost over a lifetime. The graph here shows the predicted costs of the various options. And in the simplest form or terms, the cost of a structure so the initial install cost will be spent again over its lifetime to do rehabilitations on the structure itself before the end of its life. And in this case, like rehabilitating the existing structure is the most costly because there's a cost to rehabilitate the existing structure. It's only going to last 10 to 15 years or so, whatever that length is, and then has to have a full replacement. And that's why there is that higher cost for it. So we already discussed earlier on the limited traffic use. So it is in the OSIMs, it was marked as 400 ADT. We did have roads do updated ADT in the area. There was no significant change in the ADT for any of the adjacent roads. Yes, they did see an adjustment based on the fact that Cleaver was closed, but nothing increased substantially. There's still, like, I think it was mentioned earlier that Mill Street is under 750. It's in that range. It never really increased a lot, even though Cleaver is closed. So it's still a lower volume road itself. There is the desire, as mentioned earlier, to maintain pedestrian access now that it's a safe space to do so. All the roads around it are all well maintained either by the county or the MTO as available alternate routes. And there's no additional adjacent road that's more than 2 kilometers away for anyone. And I did actually take a look across the mapping of Brant last night just to see if there was any other areas where it was less or more, and it's very consistent, even in the grid pattern down in Burford Township. If you were to take the middle point, you're 2 kilometers away from any other spot, like any other adjacent road to get to, which is similar to where the residents on Cleaver Road in the closed section are. It's not that far to any other road, and it's consistent with what is across the county. The money that was spent on the replacement and the upgrade of the Mill Street Bridge, at the time it was discussed to spend the money on the Mill Street Bridge because it was closer to the Highland Estates community. It was not documented in the EA as such. I just know because I've talked to staff and that were involved with that, and they explained it to me. But it is consistent with the approach that it was done before and after on 4 other structures around the county. So this idea is not a new thing that we're presenting. It has been done in other communities already where a structure has been closed because there's adjacent available routes. And the recommended approach leverages the existing asset that we have to convert it to a pedestrian facility for as little as possible as we can to get the remaining life out of that structure. And it's one of the approaches that is recommended through the HIA that we proceed with.
I just want to add a few thoughts here on the rationale for the recommendation. One of the things that we heard from the residents, and it was a driver in the decision to close the bridge, was the detour route of Highway 24. So the residents today who are in support of the bridge did mention the detour routes of Colburn Street East and Highway 24. We have been working with the MTO. You know, staff are meeting with them on Friday of this week, actually, and one of the discussion points we're gonna have is similar to an EDR that exists for the 403, is can we direct traffic down Bethel Road, down Bishopsgate, down Colburn Street East to avoid the area? And from a traffic planning perspective, that's really what we want to do. We're investing in those routes as call it the arterial routes in that area, in the rural area. And that's where we want that traffic to go. So we are having that discussion. Failing that, we're gonna work with emergency services to direct traffic, because we don't disagree that Robinson Road should not be having 53-foot trucks drive up and down in emergency situations. So it is a discussion. It is something that we heard loud and clear from the residents, and absolutely we agree with them. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. That just reminded me as well around the Mill Street Bridge. So it was noted that it is load posted. When I arrived at the county 5+ years ago, I questioned that as well because it was a brand new bridge. I've talked to staff, and the reason why it is load posted is to discourage heavy vehicles from using that route and staying out of the area, not because that bridge cannot handle the actual weight of the vehicles itself.
And one more thing, just is our job as staff, it is to present the facts, and the majority of the residents did respond with some semblance of keeping the bridge open, whether it is a vehicular rehabilitation or a vehicular replacement. It was around an 80-20 split to either remove the bridge or convert to a pedestrian bridge or install a pedestrian bridge compared to replacing with a vehicular bridge. I just want to make sure that council is aware of the results of the engagement and what they, what we found, I guess. And then this slide just runs through the recommendations that were presented in the report to maintain the existing structure, convert it to a pedestrian facility, and then make improvements to Mill Street and Robinson Road. And on those improvements, because it was asked, Robinson Road would be, it's currently surface treated. We think we could make some improvements if we actually paved it with asphalt, which typically, like I mentioned earlier, we would not do because the volume of traffic is not such. But we think we can be able to get the width that they want and adjust the grade slightly in places with elevations on the curves and super elevate, maybe some curves, line paint it completely with fog line on the outside center line to make it as safe as possible, because we understand we can't go in there and completely reconstruct that road. There are the environmental concerns, there's a lot of trees, the slopes and everything else. So it's the best effort to make the best situation of what we have at the least cost to do so. So it wouldn't be a major cost incurrence to do it beyond gravel and paving. On Mill Street itself, there are some vertical curve issues, so, and some width issues that were mentioned, and some drainage. So there would be a bit more money spent there, but again, it's not extensive, more than it would be of resurfacing. We would intend to pave it as well if we're gonna do some curbing and improve some storm outlet, just to Highland Drive. The remainder of the road would stay as surface treatment. Again, not a major expenditure that was mentioned, like, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, not millions of dollars as an equivalent for the replacement of the bridge. Yep.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I have a question and then a handful of comments when appropriate. In regards to my question, so my understanding is the Highway 24 Robinson intersection is MTO controlled. Have we had conversation with them on improving the intersection? How have those conversations gone? Because I do recognize that I've tried turning left out of there. It is challenging, especially with the hill. Turning right's not as big of an issue, but left I could acknowledge as an issue there. So just curious.
So through the chair to Councillor Oakley, I just looked at Greg, he shook his head. Not, but I did think about that as well when we had this conversation on Friday with the MTO around the EDR route and posting other things, is I think that would be an opportunity to initiate a conversation with them around that as well. I believe residents have reached out directly and not got a response they were hoping for, but we have not actually engaged with the MTO to have a discussion on, you know, can it be done?
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, through the chair. We had a lot of varied and interesting delegations today on this subject, and my mind's been kind of bouncing around in a couple different ways. One of the specific questions that I have for your team is, in your professional opinion, are there viable options to reconstructing that bridge so that personal vehicles can go over it that are less expensive than what's in here?
So through the chair to Councillor House, I did speak with our consulting engineer on this to ask that question. And because the nature of the construction of that bridge, being an earth-filled arch and the way the concrete is and the rebar, is there is no cheap fix to do that. Like, once you start chipping away at concrete to make those improvements and do things, you just don't know where you're gonna end up with that concrete because of its age and what may come off. So you just go down a rabbit hole of you're gonna get to that price tag. I did ask that question, is that a viable, and it's not in this case. The other idea about putting up, you know, if we did load post it to get it to the end of life and getting it down to, you know, just as small vehicles over it, and you put a barrier over the top, is the issue ends up being is if you get a transport truck down there and they can't go anywhere, you can't build a turnaround big enough for that transport truck to get back. So what do you do in that case? And we still have to maintain it in the winter, so we still have to have something available for the roads department to be able to maintain it and clear the snow. So if you limit the height, then they would have to bring a specialized vehicle there to plow the snow as well. So as much as like you can do it in some places, we considered it, but it's not really a viable option for us for like the total operation of our system.
Follow up through the chair. Thank you for that answer. And that same answer applies in that you believe there are not less expensive options in terms of replacement ideas, kits that could be applied to this particular situation. I'm just reinforcing that what is in the staff report is, from your professional opinion, the least costly available options.
So through the chair, that's correct. And, you know, this wasn't just our opinion, it was a team of consultants that we had providing the cost estimates and the solutions that were presented to the public and to council today.
Councilor Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through to Dave. We were supposed to see this last month, but my understanding is you had some input from the MTO. That input is not included with this report.
So
I didn't see it.
Sorry, my apologies. Through the chair, I was hoping to get the conversation that we're having on Friday in this report to be able to understand what our ability to control traffic is on a non-400 series highway. Unfortunately, we don't have that today. It is an unknown. However, you know, through working with emergency services, I'm sure that we could direct traffic to those routes to avoid that area.
Okay, yeah, because I was quite interested to hear what they had to say, so I'm so fortunate it's not here.
Any other questions? Councilor Oakley, you got a comment?
Yes. So in regards to this, sorry, my apologies. I'm collecting my thoughts here. So I believe the community highlighted that there was a report from 2006 highlighting the investment needed, noting that that is approximately 1/8 of the cost of what it would be now. I just want to highlight the connection between our, over the course of this term of council, continual sort of $8 million shortfall in funding our capital management plan. And as I believe Councilor Bell has brought up every time we've talked about the long-term financial plan and our budgets, what impacts we have when we're not fully funding our capital asset management plan. I think this is sort of an example of that sort of falling by the wayside and unfortunately getting to the state of repair where the costs are greatly increased to try to repair it now. And I'm prepared to support the staff recommendation to proceed with the pedestrian bridge rather than fully restoring it, but acknowledging the fact that if we were able to fully fund our capital asset management plan consistently, we wouldn't have incidents like this where now this bridge has gotten to the point where it's unsafe to drive on and we've had to close it, and now we're going to have to close it permanently. So I just wanted to highlight that connection there between our shortfall on funding our capital asset management plan and the decision that sits before us today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other comments, questions? Councilor Chambers?
Just a question, and I'm not sure whether the Public Works can answer it or whether it's a Treasury question, but if the council decides to move ahead and do a new bridge, how is that going to be financed from a budget perspective, and how long of a time frame are we looking at for a replacement of the bridge? So the question is, how long is it going to take, and how much is it going to cost in terms of how is it going to be paid for?
So through the chair to Councillor Chambers, we currently have a almost 10-year plan of structure work within the forecast. So if we were to prioritize the replacement of the Cleaver Road Bridge ahead of any one of those other structures, and we change the schedule, would we potentially miss the opportunity to do a less expensive rehabilitation on a structure because we changed the timing on it and it got pushed out? That's another reason why with the proposed is it would get us outside of what we currently have. So if proposed work within our actual bridge management plan, it would get us beyond that time period to when we might be able to have financing or funds available to do it.
Through the chair to Councillor Chambers, you would likely be looking at a 2-year design period at a minimum, and then typically a 2-year construction period. And then I can't speak to how the bridge would be funded. It would likely be looking over at my colleague Heather Boyd, but it would likely be a combination of tax levy and OSAM and CCBF.
Councillor Chambers?
So just to continue that thought, I think what you're saying is it would take approximately 4 years to construct the bridge from start to finish. And over the 4 years, we would have 4 years to find the funding or fund it in terms of in keeping with the other projects that we have in mind. And we don't know what's going to happen. There might be another bridge failure happen, whatever. So it's not like we're taking this money out of the wallet tomorrow to finish the bridge. I guess is the point I'm making. And in terms of cost, it seems like a big cost, a couple $1 million. I'm just in context with other projects that we do all over, and we don't even think about it. Reconstruction or resurfacing of Highway 53 from Woodstock to City of Woodstock to that would cost a lot of money, and that's going to have to be done because it's in terrible shape. And if you leave it, it's going to be even worse. So in terms of asset funding and all that kind of stuff, it's something that you have to look at in context of how much over time. So if we're looking at this project in terms of we need $2.5 million tomorrow, that's not really the case. There may be funding avenues available as we go on through our capital management project that make this project affordable. So I'm not too concerned about the cost of the project. I'm just concerned about whether it should be done or shouldn't be done. And that's why I lean toward the residents in that I believe that we should replace the bridge. We have time to fund it, we have time to prioritize, and we have time to do this while we wait while we're building the bridge. So I do support the residents in this. I think the bridge should be rebuilt for a couple of reasons beyond what I've just said. Obviously I'm concerned about the cost. Everybody knows what I think about borrowing and budgets, et cetera, but over time it gets paid for. Not unlike any other capital works project that costs a lot of money. The other thing is, with regard to Robinson Road, it is not a good road for traveling on. It's up and down, and we've all done it, and it's a dangerous road in my opinion. And the intersection at 24 and Robinson Road is a horrible intersection. When you compare the intersection at 53 and 24 and Bethel Road and 24 and the amount of money that's spent on those two intersections and compare that to Robinson Road, it's a dangerous intersection to turn off of and to turn onto, and it's only going to get worse with the increased traffic. The other aspect that I think of in terms of connectivity, Cleaver Road is different than Mill Street because it goes from 53 to Bethel. Mill Street doesn't. It goes up and down and around and through, and it's not a direct route. So there's value to be had in direct routes. And the other thing is that over time, I think anybody that has lived in a rural ward or a rural part of the county knows that roads and bridges are probably the most important thing that the residents have in their mind. They want good roads and they want good bridges, and that is not unlike any other road or bridge in any other rural ward. You mentioned Ward 4. If you look at that master transportation plan, and you see that there's 13 or 14 bridges that potentially could be closed, there will be a revolution in Ward 4 if you start closing the bridges on concession 12 and 13 and Clement. It's just not something we should do. We have a road network. Let's keep it intact. Let's redo the bridge. We've got 4 years to build it. We've got 4 years plus to finance it, and that would make the residents happy, and I think it would be the best thing to do in the long run. And I think it was Rosemary that said it's the right thing to do, and I tend to agree with that. I support rebuilding the bridge.
Councillor Coleman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I would have to agree with my fellow Councillor Chambers on this, that I am going to support that we keep the bridge some way for vehicle traffic to make it work and do it in the future. Salt Springs Road, it was mentioned a few times by a few delegations about it. Yes, we're moving somewhat forward on it, but like Councillor Chambers says, that's all those residents really have is the infrastructure of roads and bridges. They don't have a hell of a lot out there. Now, I got a bridge beside me I'd like to blow up, or somebody else can move it and take it. But when you got 12,000 vehicles a day, it's an arterial road. I understand that. But everybody keeps saying the consultants recommend it. The consultants don't live in the neighborhood. And it was the same here on Cleaver Road Bridge, same here on Salt Springs Road. The consultants don't live in the neighborhood. They don't know the whole story.
Councillor Miller, Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I believe we're in the debate part. So, as far as what the public engagement showed, I think it's important. I don't think at the end of the day it should be an overriding focus. And I'll explain why. And I concur with Councillor Coleman and what the last speaker said on this. They live by the bridge. And if I live by a bridge, I'd like to see it closed too, because it just takes away the traffic. But we have to look at the bigger picture. So looking at the bigger picture, we had a transportation master plan that recommended that in Ward 4, we look at 9 possible bridges to be closed. It didn't say close them, it said look at it. And that's what we're doing today. We're looking at possibly closing one of those 9. Now, at first blush, if you look at all those 9, some of them probably won't get a lot of public debate, and I refer to the one on concession 9 by Stubbe's. That's a first blush, but we haven't done an in-depth look. So I appreciate what staff did in their report. They said, well, what are the criteria that we look at on a case-by-case basis for these, well, the 15 bridges across the county? And the first criteria is the availability and suitability of alternate routes. And I will tell you right now, I have driven through the alternate routes more than anybody on this council, because I've been taking it back and forth to Paris for the last few months. And it's a dog's breakfast. It really is. And Councillor Chambers is quite correct. The Cleaver Road is a direct route from Bethel to 53. And I'll get to more of that in a second. If we talk about traffic volumes, yes, the last count we had was 400. But and if you drive in that area, you will notice that there's been a lot of building going on. Those traffic volumes will only increase. The next criteria is impacts on transportation network resiliency. And Andrea, when she was up there, talked about Highway 24 being closed 5 times that she's aware of today. I believe it's more. And so when we talk about resiliency, we need a way when there's a problem, and that's usually when you find out if you have resiliency or not. When there's a problem, are we adapted to deal with it? Having this bridge closed, we're not. And again, David Miller's pointed out that what we might look at as an alternative when 24 is closed is send them down Bethel to Bishopsgate to 53. That's probably looking at about an extra 10, 12 kilometers. People from out of town doing that, it's very confusing. If they just went down Bethel, took Cleaver, that direct route would be so simple. And when we talk about resiliency, there was mention of emergency vehicles. And they said, it looks like it's adding up to 6 minutes extra time for people in their commute. And 6 minutes does not seem like a lot. I certainly wouldn't build a bridge for an extra 6 minutes. If we're just looking at a commute to go visit your relatives or go somewhere for Christmas. But being on the paramedic committee, if there's a sudden cardiac arrest, the response time of the ambulance, their stated goal is to get to that residence within 6 minutes. So if you add another 6 minutes, I don't think they're going to make that. So there's that issue. And then we talk about another criteria is the cost of rehabilitation or replacement. I think it's good that we always think about costs. We should for every project we do. I don't disagree with that. We got to count our pennies wisely. But it should be pointed out that last month at administration, we voted 10-0 in approving a splash pad for Granville Arlington Meadows for $2.3 million. I voted for that too. I don't have a problem with that. If you look at the rehab costs in the report, it comes in at $2.8 million. So while splash pads are important and you want people to enjoy them, I don't know. We like I say, we didn't bat an eye over spending $2.3 million on that, but we seem to have a real problem with providing or replacing a bridge that has been there for over 100 years. So I'll leave it at that, Mr. Chair. As you can probably guess, I will not support the staff recommendation. If it does fail, I'll present another motion, but I believe we owe it to the residents and the new residents that are coming in to replace that bridge.
Thank you for that. Councillor Bell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I will support the staff recommendation. Just going back to Councillor Miller's last comment about the new sports facility. If I'm not mistaken, I think most of that's paid by development charges. It is different. The funding source is different here. But I have a couple of comments. The issue of time delays, which one of the presenters said wasn't an issue. That's clearly not the case from the majority of people that commented about this and wanted to see the bridge restored. They were concerned about time lost. And of course, there was the usual spread from 5 minutes to 25 minutes. Having looked at Google Maps, I think it's about 5 minutes. I don't think that's a big issue, and it's not something that would direct me to move against the staff recommendation. I also think I heard, and I'd really like it conclusively said, that emergency services, the collective, police, fire, ambulance, support this recommendation, or do not support it, should I say.
Cindy?
Through the chair, the emergency services group as a whole is not concerned with the recommendation from a response standpoint. There are alternative routes available. And just with respect to paramedic services, they are responding through dispatch. It's the closest available ambulance that would be responding. So that could be an ambulance from Brantford, or it could be an ambulance from a surrounding jurisdiction as well. They're not necessarily coming from a particular station.
Yes, thank you for that clarification. I think that's what I understood. And again, it plays to my decision to support the staff recommendation. That said, I think we did hear from residents that there are issues that we need to address. The Apps Mill Road clearly should not be a detour route, and I think more we can do to make that happen, to make sure we have a better detour route. And actually, I don't know whether we can even physically prevent people from detouring down that road. I have a sort of broad comment that, and I heard it when we had the Salt Springs decision to make, that this is the only thing that residents get. They get garbage and they get a road. Well, do they forget paramedics? Do they forget police? Do they forget the whole road system in the county? Do they forget social services? Do they forget the health unit? Do they forget all the recreational facilities that we fund? And I think people must step back and recognize that we're making financially prudent decisions for the county on the basis of all that we do. And yeah, occasionally you can be selective, but people do need to remember what this county delivers to every citizen of the county. And I think we're making the right financial decision to, with the staff recommendation, and again, I will support it. Thank you.
Okay, so we've had some very good conversation on this. We do have a mover and a seconder. It is on the floor for the staff recommendation to, for Cleaver Road Bridge to remain closed to vehicle traffic and to be converted into pedestrian-only traffic. That is what is on the floor. So I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor of the staff recommendation? Okay. All those opposed? So it appears that fails on a tied vote. So that being said, Councillor Miller, you had suggested that if it did fail, you would have a motion?
Okay. In light of the tie vote, I would suggest that we stair step maybe the next approach, in that I'd move that staff investigate cost-effective solutions to allow vehicular traffic to over the Cleaver Road Bridge, and to report back to council with those cost-effective solutions.
Councillor Coleman will second that. Councillor Chambers? Hang on one second, did you get that?
Could I ask the mover and the seconder if they could put something in, if information is coming back, a financing plan type, how it's going to be paid for over?
So more cost-effective recommendation with financial plan?
If I can just elaborate on that, it may not be necessary, but the way we do it now, we put so much money into a capital fund. That's how we budget. And we prioritize project out of that capital fund. And that is a 10-year plan and that kind of thing. So I'm just cognizant of the fact that we have all kinds of projects that we can spend money on in terms of prioritization and that kind of stuff. So I don't know whether that somehow can be massaged into the report that's coming back.
I think so, yeah.
I'll take that as a friendly amendment.
I'm not even sure what the amendment is, but.
I think what, I don't want to put words in your mouth there, Councilor Miller, but what you're suggesting here is you want staff to go back and look at a potential cost-effective way to reopen the bridge to vehicular traffic, and in that proposal, understand timeline and how it's going to be paid for.
And that may be a budget discussion issue, and maybe that's not necessary, and perhaps that's the time. If we agree to proceed, then it's a matter of budgeting for that
And that'll
eventuality.
come back in that report as well.
Yeah, and cost-effective, I mean, we're not looking for a 4-lane highway, and we have to be cognizant that it is a cold water stream. So all those factors will play into that. But again, understanding the divisive nature of this issue, I'd like to, again, stair step it and make sure that council has a say at every step.
to the motion? Counselor Oakley?
Through you, Mr. Chair, respectfully, I believe, and if staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe what is included in the report in terms of the potential alternative message, alternative options are, they already did this work is what I'm trying to get at. So I don't really see what the purpose of this, of going back and asking for another report when we have a report in front of us with various options. If we want to go for one, I would say that we have the information to do that in front of us this evening rather than sending staff back to produce another report that is rewriting what we already have in front of us. Thank you.
Counselor Miller?
I don't think they have to go back and reinvent the wheel. I think what they're going to do is maybe flush out those options a little more. Is particularly cost, because the cost change, we know that, and also as far as how we fund those potential options. Again, we're looking at the options, but flushed out maybe a little bit more in terms of the details.
So we have it moved, we have it seconded. All those in favor of the new motion, I'll call it. Opposed? And that fails on a tie. So all those opposed, please put your hands up again. Okay, committee, where do we go? Seeing no other motions set forward, I think we're status quo and it stays like it is for now. Counselor Oakley?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I will move to defer it to next admin and ops.
Counselor Chambers?
Just a suggestion, if obviously half the people want it and half don't, building on what Councilor Miller suggested is that perhaps a resolution to proceed with the bridge subject to budget and then have the discussion at budget. And if we don't pass the budget for this particular bridge, then it gets delayed. If financing is the issue, then it's passed subject to budgeting.
Well, just before you do that, and I appreciate that, and Allison wants to speak to this as well. That being said, if we just put it to this year's budget, as was stated earlier, they've got a 10-year prioritization thing. So hypothetically, if we were to pass it at X number of dollars for this budget, but it's prioritized and it's not getting done for another 6, 7, 8 years, then we're not budgeting the appropriate amount of money. So that could get a little hairy. But anyway, Allison?
Thank you. Through the chair to committee, make a recommendation that we could defer this to the December 4th long-term financial plan discussion where it can be modeled and discussed at that time for decision.
I think that's going to get us to kind of where you want it to go there. So that may, Councillor House.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm respectful of that idea, and I like the idea. My question is, we've seen in the last few minutes the downside of having an even number of people on council. Is that likely to have changed by that December meeting?
I don't think we could say yay or nay on that.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Bell, Councillor Oakley.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think whatever we do, I think there are some practical issues that need to be worked through right now. And the detour routing, I mean, we could have an accident tomorrow. We need to be able on top of that now, irrespective, because as Councillor Chambers pointed out earlier, it might be 4 years before you have another bridge there anyway. So we need to get on with some things that the community has brought forward, which I think are very genuine and relevant issues. So I would ask that we direct staff to move on that quickly.
Yeah, and I think it was stated there's a meeting with MTO on Friday, and then those discussions will happen on that as well, as much as we can influence that type of thing. Dave?
That is correct. We would proceed with that regardless of the decision made by council or any future direction.
Okay, so I'm gonna go, last comment. Go ahead.
Through you, Chair, I was just going to move the deferral to long-term financial plan as suggested by the CAO.
Seconder to that, Councillor McAlpine. So everybody understands what we're doing here. We're gonna defer it to the long-term financial plan for December 4th, and at that point in time, it'll be the cost-effective in that. Councillor Chambers.
Just for clarification, we're deferring the matter, we're not deferring the resolution. So this resolution is done, and we're referring the matter for new information. So at that time, there would be a recommendation or a floor resolution or something like that.
That's part of it. Go ahead.
In other words, I didn't mean to interrupt. In other words, if there's going to be new information presented, the report would not be supportive of the resolution, so you can't defer the resolution. You have to defer the matter.
Through Chair to Committee. So there's been no decision made on the report today. So the report itself would be deferred to December 4th when the various options would be modeled out and a new resolution may come forward.
Okay, we're all clear here. I think we've got it. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. See, Councillor House? It didn't. It's a 10-0. So, okay. Moving on to 8.2, John Noble Home Funding Strategy. Can I get a mover to get it on the floor? Councillor Coleman, Councillor McAlpine. Questions? Councillor McAlpine.
I was just questioning about the $80,000 reduction in the contribution made to the county-held John Noble Home Capital Reserve.
Heather will comment on that.
Through the chair to council, or committee, sorry. What exactly was your question about? You just said you had a question about the $80,000.
Okay, so you've added into this that there's to be an $80,000 reduction in the annual contribution made to the county's annual, I'm getting lost here already, $80,000 annual contribution made to the county-held John Noble Home Capital Reserve. So that's an $80,000 per year that you're reducing the capital contribution?
Yeah, so it's not a, through the chair, it's not a cumulative 80,000, so it's not, 80,000 in year one, 160 in year two. It's currently there is an annual transfer to the reserve of approximately $272,000. So that would be revising the amount to be $192,000 per year.
Okay.
For the length of, I believe it was 25 years, I had said.
Right. And so you were basing that on the fact that we haven't been spending as much over the last 5 years? Was that the reasoning for that? The reason I'm going there is because we've been holding off on some of our repairs and some of our work. So it was in conjunction with what we were doing with the 40-bed extension. So it wasn't necessarily that we didn't need those reserves. So that's what my concern is, that we might be shortchanging ourselves.
Through the chair, the analysis that I had completed factored in all capital projects that are currently approved that have reserve funding against them, that they would still need that reserve funding. So that was not factored into the you're not spending it so we can use it elsewhere. as well as the 10-year forecast for capital projects to come still. And then on an annual basis, just looking at the 10-year forecast in the way that it was presented in the previous year's budget, the amount required for the capital plan is approximately $100,000 less than what's going into the reserve each year. So that means it just keeps growing and growing to the point where, unless there are projects that were not actually budgeted, it reflects that the amount in the reserve is not required to continue to grow at the speed it's been growing.
Okay, I'm satisfied with that answer.
Okay. Councillor Bell, then Councillor Chambers.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Heather. I'm troubled by the fact that we're actually saying we're going to take away $80,000 a year for effectively 25 years. Because that's what this says, if I'm reading it correctly.
Through the chair to Councillor Bell, what my intention is that rather than transfer the money to the reserve, that same amount of money would be transferred to this specific project. So then the net effect of that $80,000 would be zero. It lowers the annual cost of the debt.
But we're actually reducing the amount of money we give to John Noble Home by $80,000 a year for 25 years. That's what it says, I think.
So the amount that's contributed to the reserve is contributed to a county-held reserve, so that the capital projects, rather than them being funded by the tax levy, potentially on an up and down basis, depending on the what the timing of projects are. The transfer to reserve is to try to make that capital impact to the tax levy straight line. So rather than increase for a debenture payment and make the amount higher than it is, I'm proposing that it not be made as high.
I understand why you're doing it, Heather. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I just feel very uncomfortable that we're making this 25-year commitment to not give $80,000 a year to John Noble Home. I cannot forecast 25 years ahead. I'm not sure I can forecast 5 years ahead, given that there may be changes in legislation, in regulation. We may get issues that are unexpected. When we did the work on the new build, we found all kinds of issues that we hadn't expected. For example, there was damage to parts of the property that we hadn't expected. There were, what I'm thinking of now? Asbestos, yeah, just as an example. And I have a feeling that the rest of the home may, come across some of those issues in the next 25 years. So I'm reluctant to support this.
May I just respond? Through the chair, I just wanted to make it, maybe it's just my choice of wording compared to how you're wording it is. The amount is not money that we're giving to the John Noble Home. It's the amount that the county is paying towards the expenses of the project. We are paying our share of the capital project when it happens, no matter how it's funded, whether it's funded by tax levy, funded by debt. The share of the capital project is paid to the John Noble Home. So sorry.
Yeah, I think Heather wants to comment on this as well.
So just to clarify, so what Heather's saying is we haven't unfunded any John Noble Home project. As with everything, we don't at this point for the long-term plan need that 80,000. If new projects come up or new funds are needed, they would be put in the priorities, just like all our other county projects. So it's not saying that this is forever, but this is how we fund this piece of it at this time. And if new things come up, we will work through those as with all other county priorities, balancing them in our annual reviews.
Counselor Chambers, Counselor Miller.
I'm having a hard time understanding this myself. One of the advantages of doing it by using the operating loan over 25, operating budget over 25 years is that we don't have to borrow 6.8 million today, which has an effect on our county's annual repayment limit. So my first question is our county's annual repayment limit stressed to the point where we need $6.8 million left in it?
Through the chair. Currently, at this point in time, what it's sitting at now, no. But in looking at the long-term financial plan, the 10-year capital forecast, there are a lot of very large projects coming that would involve, based on the funding forecast of how that would be paid for, would involve additional debt.
So at some point within the next 10 years, according to our long-term financial plan, our debt, our county's annual debt repayment limit is going to be maxed out. And this is a way to mitigate that rather disturbing piece of information. So my second question is, or maybe it's the third question, I lost count. By essentially putting on the operating budget for the next 25 years, I didn't even think you could do that. Don't you have to, you're running a deficit, essentially, is what you're doing of $4 million for gradually working down over 25 years. Is that what we're doing? Where's this, if we have to pay the $4.5 million and then repay it back through the annual budget, operating budget over 25 years, there's going to be money sitting out there owed to somebody because we spent it.
So through the,
repaying ourselves back, but we don't have it.
Through the chair, the amount to date has been paid using current cash flows, current cash on hand.
So what you're suggesting is that we carry $4 million in our cash flow situation for 25 years, gradually diminishing. So my last question, I guess, would be, how does that impact all the other things that we're trying to finance through our capital or through our cash position? That's got to have an impact on our cash position.
I think Heather wanted to comment on the last part too.
So the unique thing about this proposal is that a large portion of that annual payment is coming from the province as part of their payment for this project. And just because of the timing of their payments is going to coincide, which is why this project makes sense to be internally financed. In terms of our own cash projections, what it means is a loss of interest rather than an actual debt, but at this point, the interest rates are nowhere near the debt rates anyway. So that is why we put this forward, largely because that revenue source is not tying up so much our operational budgets for the next 25 years, but more that money that's already committed to from the province to pay this off eventually.
Okay, that makes sense because the province is paying us back over 25 years what we're paying out. And that's how it's reconciled in our budget, I guess is what you're saying. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah. Okay. Councilor Miller.
The 272 that we're paying into the John Noble Home Capital Reserve, where did that number 272 come from? Do we know? Do we remember?
Through the chair, yes. I actually did have that built into my report, but my report was getting very, very long. So I just wrote down a note in case the question was asked.
Yeah, I think I know, but I need, yeah.
So prior to 2015, when this reserve was created, there was a funding agreement with St. Joseph's Life Care. So when funding agreement was in its last renewal, it was a 4-year renewal agreement where the amount that was being paid to St. Joseph's Life Care would be gradually reduced over that 4-year period. And part of the approval, I believe it was within the recommendation, was that the amount that was not being paid to St. Joseph's Life Care would get paid into this John Noble Home county-held reserve.
Okay. So basically, we were paying out the money to St. Joe's, but because St. Joe's isn't a municipally owned long-term care facility, we said, let's use those funds towards John Noble Home. John Noble Home never requested those funds per se, that amount. So we've been paying that money, not knowing for sure that they need it or they don't need it. The reserve's built up. What's the reserve at now?
Through the chair, so that transfer to reserve is not paid to the John Noble Home.
But what's the reserve at now, though?
So the reserve balance at the end of 2014, which included or excluded amounts already committed to other projects, was approximately $593,000.
Okay, so it's at a healthy amount. Anyways, what I'm getting at is if they need it, they can dip into it. But I don't think we should take some arbitrary amount that was being paid to somebody else, give it to the John Noble Home. If they don't need it, they don't need it. But we have a healthy amount there. I think it's fine to take it from there, as we've seen. I know there's other projects coming up, but to date, thus far, we've got lots of room in that reserve. So I'm going to support the recommendation and help our long-term debt funding.
Councillor Chambers, last question, statement.
It's just a comment. I am supportive of the philosophy behind the resolution. I think what might help some councillors is if it said something which might be offset by a reduction at council's discretion, that kind of things, which would leave it open that maybe this year we do it, maybe next year we don't, depending on what our budget is, that kind of stuff, rather than committing for 25 years to reduce it 80,000. Perhaps in 2027, we can afford to put $80,000 in the budget, and then we can do it, but this resolution would prevent that from happening. So as an option to offset the annual operating budget, we could or we might not want to put $80,000 in. So in that way, I can support it.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Councillor Chambers. That's the right direction. I think I'm concerned that we're apparently appear to be committing for 25 years to do this. I do not commit to 25 years. I cannot commit to 25 years to do this. But if we did it year on year, if we can afford it this year, great. Let's review the decision in a year from now. If it still works, then a year from then, and a year from then. But I hate the idea of committing to 25 years to this. I do accept that we can, this year, internally fund it. Next year, we may not be able to internally fund it for other reasons. And it may not be John Noble Home that leads us to that conclusion.
That's a different conversation, Councillor Chambers. Maybe you'll need a 41st bed if we do it like that, right? Yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's get back on track here. So let's back this up. So what I'm hearing from Councillor Chambers and Councillor Bell here is a potential amendment to this, that we take off the clause of the 25 years, or what am I hearing here?
If I could say, yeah, I think if we can remove the idea that this is committed to 25 years of not giving John Noble Home $80,000 a year. But if it was written that we think we can internally fund it this year, and that we were reviewing future years whether we can continue to internally fund it, I could be supportive of not taking a debenture for this amount of money.
Okay, so what if we were to just add the statement in there, leave it as it is, and add a statement that reviewed on an annual basis? Would that work? Okay, so we're gonna leave the recommendation as is, and we're gonna add a clause in there that it be reviewed on an annual basis, and that'll dictate whether we can or cannot. Somebody wanna put that amendment on there? Counselor Chambers, Counselor Bell, everybody's good with that?
Added to after the $80,000.
Correct, yeah, yeah. Counselor Miller, to that amendment?
If staff are okay with that, if we can still honor the spirit of what we were trying to do, and that was to get our annual repayment limit.
Yes, we would consider every year how we're going to fund that 80,000. If we decide we need to put some more back into John Noble Home, then we will be budgeting that accordingly on an annual basis.
All right, so we're good with that? All right, so right now we're gonna vote on the amendment. So all those in favor of the amendment? Opposed? The amendment is carried. Now we're gonna vote on the original recommendation as amended. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, thank you for that. 8.3, fire station location study. Any questions on that? The chief is sitting there waiting to answer. Can I get a mover to get it on the floor? Mayor Bailey, Councillor Coleman. Questions? Okay, it's on the floor to receive for information. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Oh, there's a direction to prepare a business plan as well. Is that, we're good to add, receive his information and prepare a business plan? Mover and seconder are good with that? Councillor Coleman, you're good with that? Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Spencer. Okay, on to section 9. Thank you for that. 9.1, Accessibility Advisory Committee. Mover to get it on the floor. Councillor Oakley, Councillor Howes, questions? Councillor Oakley.
Through you, Mr. Chair, no questions, just a comment. I just want to highlight that we had lunch with the Novacon folks and their workers last week. And we're able to recognize them for the great work they've been doing. We wanted to, in the Accessibility Committee, highlight the fact that, you know, we've noticed they're really going above and beyond, making sure our downtown is still accessible throughout the construction period. In particular, you know, we've seen folks going out of their way to help folks across the street who have mobility issues, all that good stuff, to make sure that we still have an accessible community while we're going through this construction process. So we made sure to, you know, thank the folks who are putting in this hard work.
Thank you for that. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 9.2, Brand Heritage Committee. Mover, Councillor Howes, Councillor McAlpine. Questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Section 10, 10.1, Communication, City of Brantford, Brantford Airport Board Report. Can I get a mover? Councillor Oakley. Councillor Coleman. Councillor Oakley.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would like to request as the mover to vote on the clauses separately.
Okay. Councillor Miller.
I'm seeking clarification on this recommendation that the city sent, because it references section 5.1.3, and if I look in the report, I don't see 5.1.3, but I'm sure it's there. I just don't know where it is, and I don't know what items they're asking us to share costs in. And keep in mind, I've read the whole thing, so if someone could clarify that for me.
Who can clarify that?
Through the chair to committee, unfortunately, it was Ms. Garneau who was on this particular committee, and I believe had planned to speak to this report today, or this recommendation, excuse me. So I don't have those details in front of me. I know this was mentioned by her at a previous meeting, but we can certainly get those. We obviously weren't anticipating the events of the last week, but I can certainly get those and bring this back if you would like to defer this to council.
Okay, because Mr. Chair, they mentioned putting in permanent aviation fuel tanks. They mentioned another hangar. They mentioned non-airside building for Conestoga College. And if I have to read between the lines, I'm thinking those are the three items, but again, I'm at a loss, so.
Do we want to defer this one to council? Mayor Bailey?
Yep.
Seconder for deferral? Okay, Councilor Kyle? All in favor of that? Opposed? That is carried. So 10-1 will be next weekend, or next council meeting. 10.2, City of Brantford Paramedic Services Budget Extension. I'm going to move her. Councilor Oakley, Councilor Miller. Questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. 10.3, petition for hard surface for the fifth concession. Can I get a mover? Councilor Miller. Councilor House, thank you. Any questions? Councilor Miller.
Just a comment, Mr. Chair. I just want to speak to this and just make a note, please. This issue hasn't gone away for those who are still on a gravel road. They're still wanting hard surface, and this is just another example. I still field calls from residents that are interested. They're thrilled, you know, for the neighbors that do get it, but it doesn't impact them. The interesting part about this fifth concession is we're actually hard surfacing part of it, but we're not going down to their part, to where these residents reside. So I guess that's a very frustrating thing to watch. In addition, they've been waiting for years. Well, the fellow that started the petition has been waiting for decades. And I should point out as well, it's not such a bad investment for the county to put money into hard surface, because partially we pay for that with, well, it used to be gas tax money. I believe it's the Canada Builds funds. So we are using federal funds to help us with that. At the same time, we know that the maintenance costs of a gravel road is a lot more than the maintenance costs of a hard surfaced road. So we don't have the grading, we don't have the calcium put on, we don't have extra gravel to those roads. So, like I said, at the end of the day, very frustrating for these residents, and this is, I think, they're expressing that they would really like to see us continue with the program. And at the end of the day, I think it's good for the residents, and I think it's good for the county.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Chambers?
Just with regard to the fifth concession, it is scheduled in two separate works, one on the west side and one on the east side of Maple Avenue, I believe it is. And it would make sense to me to do it all at once, because you've got the residents on one side of the road fighting against the other side of the road, and it'll be a petition in from the other side of the road, I can guarantee you, if they find out that this is there. So I would suggest that perhaps when we're looking at resurfacing one side of the road, we look at resurfacing the other side at the same time, and that would solve a lot of problems. And just to comment on Councilor Miller's suggestion that people have been asking, I've been being asked for over 40 years for some roads to be paved, and I keep telling them, well, maybe next year. So hopefully the fifth concession, I can tell them it's going to be paved next year.
Next year.
Entire road.
Okay, thank you for those comments on that. So all in favor of that report? To receive, yeah. Okay, and then 10.4, there's a bunch of correspondence regarding Cleaver Side Road. Can I get a motion to receive those? Mayor Bailey, Councilor Coleman.
All of them together?
Oh, yeah, all of them together, yeah.
Yep.
All those in favor? Miller, seemed like a long time ago, but you did say you had something.
I did. The Burford Cathcart Harley Legion recently hosted a bunch of other legions, and Mayor Bailey was there, brought greetings from the county, although you didn't have her certificate on you. But one of the things that the local Legion wanted, the Legion branch wanted, was the work around the cenotaph the sidewalk and the walkways were very uneven. So I just want to commend Greg Demers for getting the work done, basically new, around the whole cenotaph. It is beautiful. And a lot of the Legion members were very, very appreciative of the work our staff did to get that done in time for them to host. So note of appreciation.
Thank you for bringing that forward. Okay, so that brings us to 12 for in-camera. We're going to go in camera, that Administration Operations Committee convene in camera to discuss S-239-2, proposed and pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, RPT-0359-25, property acquisition of 925 Rest Acres Road, as well as a proposed and pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, RPT 0362-25, Grand River Street North, expropriation of remaining road widening parcels, and update on the previous purchases. Mover, Councillor Oakley, Councillor Kyle. Questions? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We're going to go 2 minutes, please. Okay, we are back in open session. I do not see anything else on the agenda for today, so the next meeting is Tuesday, November the 18th. Motion to adjourn. Counselor Kyle.